So good, I'm glad there's something else along here too.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, you can come and sit down. Okay, good evening, everyone. Today is December the 12th, and we are having a planning board meeting. Our attorney is gonna be late, but we do have a call. So can I get a motion to open up the planning board meeting for December 12th, 2023, and the time is 6:01 p.m. Second. I get a roll call. All right. Valerie, here.
Ben.
John?
Teresa. And Ryan is our consultant.
Right, and we'll wait for it too.
And Bettina's the second.
I'm taking.
I'm hoping that,
I'm taking them.
Ben, thank you, Ben. Just, we don't want anything. Okay, so we have a roll call. Our attorney is gonna be late, but she's coming. And one of our members is gonna be late. She's coming. Okay? So we're gonna start this meeting off. I'd like to get a motion to open up the public hearing for 6-12 Hudson Avenue.
I'll make a motion.
A second. Are you here? Okay. Okay. Before you want them to present first, or you want them to go?
Guess probably up to the applicant if you guys want to present or
And then
any
after them,
updates.
yeah, we're gonna let Ryan. Whoa. I think Ryan, I think you should take yourself though.
Okay.
So what they're doing.
Yep,
Yeah,
so,
before you present, I want the consultant to catch us up to us to where you are now. Because some correspondence was given and we all read it, but just catch the board up to what we're gonna about to see now, okay?
yeah,
All
so
right.
6 to 12 Hudson Ave, Walter Chatham, Mary and Crystal Hines, here for the applicant, have been before the board, with this iteration of the project since, I believe, last fall, last summer. And the applicant submitted a new submission back in October, which addressed a number of comments from earlier this year. The project, it's a 16 lot subdivision with townhouses and detached single family houses, a proposed common driveway and private utilities. So we've reviewed and provided comments, and I know Victoria's office was also looking at the draft legal documents. More than happy to go through some of our comments and if there's any questions. But I guess I turn it over to the applicant for any updates, because I don't think any updates to really the October submission and kind of where the project stands on your end.
Okay,
Can you bring your exhibit?
Everybody understand?
yeah, as usual, it's an amazing.
I know, it looks historic,
But, can everybody,
Did you send that to us by email?
well, you have this. I think.
Oh, this is what we already have,
This.
okay, because I wasn't finished.
So, Ryan is correct, we actually received this letter yesterday,
Sorry.
so we've not had time to, deal with it, but, thank you, Ryan. We looked through it carefully, don't see anything here that is, an impediment, that's gonna hold us back or stop us. I think some of the things maybe, there's a little confusion because we submitted several surveys, so we have a more up-to-date survey, you maybe have an older one, so we can clarify all of that. Not to waste anybody's time, because I know you all have a lot to do tonight and other things on your agenda. Let me just say that, our feeling, and I speak for Mary also, is that, we've worked very hard to meet all of the conditions that have been put before us. I think, thank you for your guidance, all of you. I think we're very close to being there. And, a number of things came up, like the CSO that everybody's dealing with. Ryan, you might speak to that, but we had submitted a study a while back that showed that at that point, the city had the capacity to take our tap. So that was, I think, the biggest issue that we had. Most of the things on this list, I believe, are either, we need a manual for maintenance of the pervious pavement, or the rain garden details, or they're buried in there, but we'll excavate them and make sure that they're very clear. And, I think some things, this has been going on for a long time, so there's a lot of, we'll get the surveyor to change something, and then something will change again, and then the survey doesn't catch up. So, the biggest problem we've had is kind of chasing our tail in terms of getting all the information to close, and I think many of Ryan's comments understandably have to do with inconsistencies. So, I guess our intention is in the next month, or certainly 2 months, to satisfy that list. And so if that will, we were able to do that and check off the engineering, I guess what's left, my understanding, is the public hearing part and what information the public and the planning board would like to have to just, make a reasonable decision. So. Okay, that's my.
And Ryan, I did have a question for you in connection with your review. Item 3 of the Declaration of Restricted Covenants. Ultimately, we don't have a property here that has a well and a septic.
Yeah,
So I don't know if the bills are coming directly to the lots by the city, or if they're gonna go to the homeowners association. So I guess we need a little bit of clarification on how that's gonna
Well,
work
and
on that end.
definitely with, any of my comments regarding the draft legal documents, I would defer to, the planning board's legal counsel to work those out. Just mainly items that I noted that may need, some language massaged. And, that one is, the lots will be serviced by the city of Hudson for water and sewer. That's correct, as you indicate. And maybe we had a qualifier or something about the private infrastructure, which I believe is referenced elsewhere in the declaration. So just so there's not confusion when people are buying these lots and not reading every line, that they understand that they, as part of at least the internal lots, they'll have responsibilities through the HOA.
Right, yeah, that's also in the declaration.
Yep.
Yeah. All right.
And if, just a couple things to piggyback on Walter's comments. And, I think you had a question on the CSO, the sewer study. So I do know you submitted, city DPW did provide a letter, indicating their approval of the system. I know DPW has been working with DEC on basically a process and a protocol for all projects in the city. So, just to clarify that as well, once the city accepts feels that the proposal is complete, it actually is a DEC approval. So that's something that the city, basically through you as the applicant, DPW needs to request that approval from DEC. It's ultimately their approval that needs to be granted, similar to the environmental plan and the SWIP. So once those are all set, once those approvals are received, approval letters from DEC, that will really kind of wrap up those 3 items. And yeah, as definitely to echo Walter's comments, I think a lot of it is just making sure all the plans overlap. And one thing that I would just note, I think is a pertinent change for the board to be aware of, is and correct me if I'm wrong, I think this was.
Bettina, you could come in and sit over here. Bettina, I'm coming and sit right here.
A pertinent change since the last iteration, the common driveway, I believe is how you're referring to it now, is on a separate deeded parcel that would be owned and maintained by the HOA, is that correct?
That's right, so we added the 17th lot.
So previously, the common driveway was part of lot 16
Right.
in an easement area, so it's now proposed as a separate lot.
And that's the one in the back?
16 is in the back.
Right.
And this here is the
driveway.
So 17 is a T shape for the driveway and turnaround. Okay, so that's the only other thing to note with, kind of another, a change to the proposal. But if there's, any questions as you move through and any of my comments regarding the draft legal documents I definitely defer to, legal counsel for the specific language.
Any questions from the members of the planning board in regards to this project?
Yeah, were you still planning to keep your existing home there?
Yes,
Okay,
that's us, yeah.
okay, and so the lot that's gonna be 16. Is that gonna be an additional unit for sale or?
So I think what we'd like to do, Randall, if we ever get to selling these things, is build a house first once here. And then we'd sell that house, but
Okay.
for the moment, I can
understand.
assure you, we're gonna be staying in this house for a while.
Okay,
And the 16th house is gonna be a freestanding house, not like the others.
Yes,
Okay,
this is freestanding and, Ryan pointed out, now that we created this lot, we violate the setbacks, so we have to move it a little bit or take it off, as you suggested. So that's the kind of thing I was saying when we change conditions and we end up having to change other stuff, but so I think everybody was, very supportive of the idea
right.
that becomes a homeowner association, a separate entity, and we're very comfortable with that idea also.
and were you gonna put more fill, like behind 16, because there was a very sharp, roll off.
Yeah, that starts about here.
Okay,
We actually, interestingly enough, I'm glad you asked, we are filling this now,
okay,
and we have legal permission to do so, and if we can, that will allow us, right now, we're putting this house here because the contours are shallow to there.
right,
Now that we have the setback, we're gonna push it back and we're getting a little fill back,
Okay.
that's in the future.
All right, any more questions? Okay, any questions from the public in regards to 6-12 Hudson Avenue? Anybody on Zoom? Okay, so can I get a motion to continue this till next month, January? Okay, okay, right. So thank you,
Thank you.
and we will continue this next month and go over everything.
Thanks for taking the time tonight, I know you guys are busy.
Now, can I get a motion, okay, to open 7:35 is not presenting, so we need to open this and close it, and then get a resolution to continue it. 7:35, can I get a motion to open 735 Columbia Street? Second,
second.
all in favor? Any opposed? And they're not here to present, so for time's sake, you were all sent the latest update on 7:35. We'll just, can I get a motion to, just forward this until next month?
So,
Okay, all in favor? Aye. So that's, we're gonna forward 7:35, public hearing until next month. Okay, now we have old business. And that's going to be Caruso. Oh, forgot. Can I go back? I forgot to do the presentation, so that's stuff.
Oh,
I think I'm doing that, I wanna,
Yeah, that, I don't think there's an issue with that if you want.
Okay, I just wanna mention two things with 7:35, are they still here? No. We need them to replenish the escrow. And because our attorney is not here, we don't have the resolution. But, it was an amount on the floor of 10,000. Because we still have a lot of things that we do, and that also for 6-12. Their, escrow is very low. As, according to our treasurer, so we need a resolution. So can I get a motion for both of them together?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Hey, Teresa, I'm on, Cassandra's on before Victoria gets there. Just make them separate motions. You can do it verbally, but make it separate.
Okay, can I get a motion, to have 735 replenish the escrow by $10,000.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, 735 is Valerie and Randall. And can I get a motion for 612 Hudson Avenue to replenish the escrow by 10,000? 10 seconds. And then- All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right, Cassandra, thank you. See you there. Okay. Okay, now we're gonna continue with old business, and that's with, all. And I'm gonna request that we got your letter, thank you. Hi, how are you? And, I'm gonna request that our consultant, because we got it yesterday, I'm not sure if everybody read it, kind of bring us up to date on that letter. And you can ask your questions and we'll go forward, okay? Sure. Okay.
All right, thank you, Teresa. So yes, as Teresa mentioned, and I think you all received a copy over email, the applicant did submit a letter yesterday to the board,
Which will be posted to the public.
which includes an attachment. It's an amendment to, or a revision to what was presented last month to the board about potential conditions to the conditional use permit. So numbers 1, 3, and 4, I believe remain the same as previously proposed. So 1 limits dock or hauling operations from the quarry to the dock from Monday to Thursday, 7 AM to 6 PM, and on Fridays from 7 to 5. No hauling on weekends or holidays. So that is a reduction from what is currently permitted in the code for receiving shipments at the dock, which is 7 days a week, 7 AM to 7 PM. 3 is relating to the paving of the haul road through the causeway and at the intersections to reduce dust. And 4 was the general catch-all for complying with permit conditions that have been issued for the project. Item 2, condition 2 is new to the project from the last iteration, and it appears that this was a result of the board's discussion and questions regarding use of city streets, and when that would be permitted. So the current proposal that's been put in front of the board is to limit use of the city streets for only 2 conditions. So under this condition, there would be no use of city streets unless the haul road would be impassable. So last meeting, we were talking about this as the
Yeah.
force majeure exception. So this could be flooding, it could be a tornado, a washout. 9 or 9G is shut down because of construction, something that's outside, unanticipated and outside of the control of Colarusso, the city, etc. So in that situation, Colarusso would use city streets and use the haul road to the greatest extent practicable, basically. So if, previously we had talked about if the causeway is flooded, do they need to use the entire stretch? They would, they would use the haul road to the greatest extent possible, but these are unforeseeable. The list would be enumerable. So, that would be the one exception.
Ryan, could you have any, did you bring the diagram? Can you put it, do you have it in your computer?
I have,
So the,
let's see,
public
I'm
can just see what we're talking about, or what,
trying to think what the best way to put them up would be.
we may have to join the Zoom meeting.
That language that you just mentioned, to use the whole road to the greatest extent possible, we've talked about that.
Yep.
Numerous times, you guys have verbally agreed, is that the language in here? Yes. What line, I didn't.
So for the specific exemption, that's what's written here for, the force majeure clause, there is not specific language using the haul road to the greatest extent possible. That's what we talked about.
And I understand.
And, you know, I think the question here, and, you know, that's something that we can definitely have a discussion about is how we would word that, because there are so many. This is kind of the catch-all condition. So there's not, if we think of 5, there's probably 5, 10 other. But in terms of incorporating language, that really Colarusso shall use the haul road for trucks traveling between the quarry and the dock except when, and then under these conditions, if there was, you know, that they shall use it, in that situation to the greatest extent possible would be something that the board could consider.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the language that we've been using, I just don't see it in the document.
Yeah, I think it's
And even that's consistent with, you mean, notwithstanding your exemptions. I think something could easily put in.
Well, we're gonna make a resolution.
I'm not sure of the question.
The phrase that we've been using, that Colarusso would use the haul road to the greatest extent possible, except for these things, right? That specific to the greatest extent possible doesn't appear in your amended thing, that particular phrase.
So, I think,
It was never.
I think we're confusing two things.
Okay.
Is it for in next to number 2 or in number 2I?
I would say, what would it be like?
So I think 2I is what we're, you know, what Randall's questioning here.
Just 2 as written says that we'll always use the haul road, except, and then here's the 2 instances where we wouldn't use the haul road. And so it's the greatest extent possible would be going the other direction, because we're, right?
Well, it doesn't say always, it just
Avoid
says,
the use of city streets to the maximum extent practicable. So even if you have to go, even if it's blocked and you do the mining exception, you know, don't voluntarily go down Third and then around. I mean, use the most limited path possible. That's what
Yeah.
the board is getting at.
Yeah, and I think that is, you know, I think that's the nature of the discussion, and since the board is ultimately going to be crafting the language of the conditions, you know, while we definitely, this is a good starting point, but language to that effect for the force majeure clause, when we go on to item 2.2 here, there is a specific route spelled out, so that would not apply there. And I'm just logged in.
So we're saying the same thing, but just in different language.
All right, so Michael, am I able to share screen?
You should be able to.
Okay. All right, so. There we go. All right, so just to kind of orient you all to the different routes here. The red route, the line in red that I'm gonna trace with my cursor, coming Newman Road to Green Street to Columbia to Third to the Causeway, Front Street, and to the dock is the current route from the quarry to the dock. The return trip from the dock to the quarry takes Front Street to Columbia, Green, Newman to the quarry. So what we've discussed here is, you know, ultimately, Green is the proposed Hall Road, which would be entirely off of city streets from Newman Road through the quarry, crossing Route 9, coming down to 9G, and then the Causeway portion to Front Street.
This is all based on last month's meeting. Where we were saying, you know, just to be, you know, we're not in the practice of keeping trucks off the street. But because of the impact that your trucks will make on this decision, we have to address this. So last month, that's what we were trying to do, but a member left and we just, things got.
I think we'll have it covered here in the section.
Yeah, so the next major exception that we've been back and forth a lot on is blasting events. So Colarusso currently has quarries, at least, I don't know the full extent of the operations, but on both sides of Newman Road, you can see on the east side, where the scale and, the offices, there are quarries or areas that are being quarried. and then between Newman Road and Route 9. So there's been a concern or a concern presented by the applicant that when they are blasting in the quarry that's between Newman Road and Route 9, by safety regulations that are set by the state and the blaster in charge of the blasting events, they would not be able to use the haul road between Newman Road and 9. And now those blasting events, we've discussed a variety of numbers and scenarios. They are scheduled events that are, the final time is approved by the state. They're usually a short-term event, but there are many things that could go wrong. A misfire, I think, was one of the examples where there could be an unexploded, unignited charge in the quarry, that there would be an extended period. However, the typical blasting events are routine. I think that language applies here. Now, it also would only apply when the blasts are occurring in this quarry itself, not on the east side of Newman Road. So during that situation, just to look at what is written here as the alternative route before we talk about the frequency, during that situation, the language is proposed to use Newman Road, Green Street, Columbia, and 3rd to get to the causeway and to the dock. So that is the same route that is currently taken from the quarry to the dock. And that same route would be used to return from the dock to the quarry during a blasting event only.
Would it, I don't know if this was talked about last, but, wouldn't it be more appropriate to come down Route 9 to the Hall Road and then come in on the backside of the quarry that's being blasted?
So that is one route that was looked at here, of basically coming across 7th Street, Warren, Worth, and then 9. I think that's the one you're referencing, John.
Yeah.
Yes, and so that was one that has been previously discussed. I know there was a bit of back and forth about which of those routes has the most impact per se. Where, coming across the park and going up Warren, currently there are no quarry to dock trucks on 7th Warren or Worth, where this would be introducing them to that segment. And then there's also a number of, there's additional turning movements that the trucks would need to take. So there's the two options there. How it's currently written is that the blasting route would use Green, Columbia, and 3rd. And those were really the reasons for that, either way.
I wasn't worried about the impact on the drivers. I was worried about the impact on the city, going out through a less populated area, number one.
Yeah, so definitely part of Route 9 there, or, Route 9 when it goes to Route 9 is less populated. There are, some, I'm not a truck driver, but it from a graphic standpoint, there are a number of different maneuver, more turning movements that take place there. And it's really, I think the concern was introduction of trucks where there currently are no,
I have a tendency to kind of disagree with fewer turns and things like that. You're coming down Columbia Street, Green Street, okay? You still have to come over 3rd to get down to the road.
Yeah.
It's.
So there are the two alternatives there, and I think the applicant has, this is a presentation or a diagram that was previously discussed, and that's something, if that's, I guess really within the board's purview, which alternative route that may take, during a blasting exception.
Can you, the light green line
Yep.
is the whole road?
Correct.
Yeah, can we maybe change it so that the public can see that? That's the whole road, actually, make that more prominent?
Just so the change of color essentially.
Exactly.
Yeah, I will. I can do that. So, yeah, I will highlight this. Now, the one major change that I'm gonna do as I'm tracing this out here or discuss that's included in this draft permit language. There was a lot of concern from the board, during last month's discussion and previous months about how many times a year blasting events occur. And the applicant has discussed that, you know, it varies from year to year. And also it varies. There's a lot of different factors in terms of whether it's occurring in the quarry between Newman and 9 versus the other side of Newman Road, when the blasting exception would not need to come into play. And the other item is a blasting event occurring when Colarusso is hauling from the quarry to the dock? So there's, based on the traffic evaluation submitted in 2020, you know, we can see in the data submitted up to that point, there are a number of days that they're running at a low volume or no volume at all, and those blasts could be occurring in those times. So what the applicant has proposed is, in this language, is to limit those blasting events to a maximum of 40 times per year. So now those 40 times, one thing that I just wanna throw in there is that as we were just discussing, the blasting events are usually a discrete amount of time, 1-2 hours, as long as nothing goes wrong, in which case we would be in that force majeure exception anyways. So when we look at 40 times per year, that's most likely a maximum situation of 40, give or take, hours on city streets.
Do you know what they're doing currently?
So currently, they are permitted to make deliveries to the dock 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. 7 days a week. So that is 4,380 hours a year. So this blasting exception would be, you know, at a maximum of 40 hours per year on city streets. The remaining time, and I guess going back to that first condition, by reducing the hours under the code from Monday to Thursday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Friday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. That reduces hours to 2,808 hours per year. So now those hours would be, as currently proposed, exclusively on the Hall Road, unless one of those blasting events were to take place. So overall, there's roughly a little bit more than a third, about 35%, 36% reduction in total hours of hauling under that condition. And then 36%. So just shy of 1,600 hours less of hauling permitted under this condition.
But I also see that there is an exception. It says, each time this is, let's see, 40 times per year unless Colarusso New York State DEC mining permit is emitted in such a way that more frequent exceptions are required.
Yes.
Can you expand on that?
Yeah, so that's something that we did want to clarify with the applicant. So the mining permit, which the board, and I think I can fairly say this, does not, the mining permit is outside of the jurisdiction of the planning board. However, what I've come to understand is that the mining permit and Mine MSHA, Mine Safety Health Administration, regulates the size of blasts. So under the current operation, under the current permit that Colarusso has to operate their quarry, the 40 exceptions is within the kind of their realm of operations. However, should unforeseen to them, us, anybody else, that their blasting events be restricted further, that in that case, this exception would have to come back before the planning board for, I think the applicant would make a proposal based on, you know, this is what we were permitted to operate under, and we were having 40 exceptions. Now our, you know, this is the change, therefore this is what we propose, and then there would be a discussion at that point.
I was just playing with that language because the way they wrote it did not require them to come back.
Okay.
So I would propose it says, this exception shall be limited to 40 times per year unless the applicant's New York State DEC mining permit is amended in such a way that more frequent exceptions are required, in which case the planning board shall reconsider the number of exceptions allowed, taking into consideration the impact on the residents of the city and the ability of the applicant to conduct its business. So that means they would, if there's some major change in the permit, you know, come back on that one particular issue to determine how to address it. That would be what I would propose.
Yeah, because right now it kind of reads like it could go up, it could go down, like it's just kind of hard to it just seems really flexible with that exception, the way it's written.
Does the applicant want to comment on that? Was that?
I was gonna ask some question. You're blasting, that's the, material that you get to haul, right?
Yeah.
So the number of times that you blast is based on your needs to run your business
Correct.
and, how much you would make, it kind of regulates the money that you're making or something.
Well, the state regulates,
How much you
our
can-
blasting. And
Okay.
there's vibration measured, there's dust, there's, air impact. And if they were to change those regulations, which are outside of, yes, then we would have to change what we do, and it may be more blasting involved.
Oh, so you're right. In other words, you blast and you haul a certain amount. And if they were to change that, you would have to blast more to haul that same amount.
Correct.
Because you have to do business.
Yep.
Okay. I'm just making sure I'm listening. Any more questions?
One other item, and going back to, I guess, the contingency route for the blasting events that I did want to mention to the board. There was a question, from the board on why can't during a blasting event, Colorusso trucks travel south on Newman Road down to 23 and then back up 9? So I did look into that. Did look into that further, and there are weight restrictions in the town on Newman Road south of the scale. So right now, that the Colorusso trucks are not able to take a left under that weight restriction.
So Newman Road is in Greenport,
Correct.
and that's a country road, right?
It's a rural
Very
two-lane road.
quiet, no children, no cars, no nothing, and they have weight.
There's a weight limit on the road, yes.
Is the weight restriction such that
Well,
they
city
couldn't take,
trucks are-
they couldn't,
exactly.
they couldn't utilize the road empty and or full?
Correct. Yeah, plus it's not conducive to trucks. If you take a look at a map, the actual turn you have to take at an intersection, you cannot.
It's like the whole road, isn't it? In a sense.
The whole road is better than that road, yes.
So I think you should, I'm not sure if there's consensus on which alternate route everyone likes better.
Oh, that's what he's going over now, the difference, yeah.
So just to look at, Newman Road traveling south of the quarry. So it is, largely, unpopulated, but then once we get down to, I believe it's Finger.
Yeah.
There.
Right here, there is a very sharp turn, and I think this is even on a decline. There's some elevation change, through here, and then coming out Finger to 23, there are some residences before then being on 23 and 9, but Newman Road is under a weight
I
restriction.
just have a question. So that property that's inside that line, you see where it makes that turn there?
Here,
Well, what is it? Is that about a mile across? Like if you could connect to those roads?
No, it's-
What is that?
I mean, it's
It's in town, I don't know what it is.
probably, the scale here, it might be 300, 400, 500 feet through here, but I mean, this is also somebody's,
That's private land.
it's presumably private land, and we just take a look, let's we're here. We'll just take a look. So this is looking up Newman Road, and then this is the turn, going on to Finger. So the route coming from Newman would be coming down this way and making this turn, onto Finger, which is that tight tight hairpin turn.
But if it- just my question, if it wasn't for that turn, it would, the railroad wouldn't be a bad alternative.
And
No,
we're
weight
restricted from
limited.
being on the road.
Anyway, okay, I'm just curious.
Nobody wants you in there.
I'm not saying it's sorry, just.
Nobody wants them in their backyard.
Very true.
Okay, go ahead, Brian. Continue. Unless anybody else.
And I guess the only other item that I would mention as part of that contingency is that any time that blasting contingency were to occur, Colarusso would need to post that on their website and notify code enforcement, of the city of Hudson in writing. So there would be the notification made before the blasting event. The trucks would use whatever the selected alternative route is. And then get back onto the haul road at the termination, once the quarry is clear, in the opinion of the blaster in charge.
I have one other question for you guys, and it may just be the wording, unless Colorusso's New York State DEC mining permit is amended, is there a new mining permit in the works, or is it pretty well set in stone?
It updates every 5 years, but it's the same permit that they update. We're only talking about if New York State changes regulations.
Oh, yeah, no, I was
Yeah.
just confused by the
Yeah,
wording.
our permit should stay the same.
Unless you find that you need to blast more for a certain
Oh.
reason.
No, right now, our permit would stay the same. If we want to blast more, that's not an issue at this point.
So the permit, it's my understanding that the permit doesn't limit the quantity of blasts, or the frequency of blasts, but the parameters around, so the size of the blast. And these are, in the hypothetical situation, they're permitted to blast whatever their permit allows now. If that size of blast were to be reduced in half, in order to maintain the same product quantity, they'd have to increase blast twofold. So that's kind of where this, and, I think with these permits, they're reissued, as is, but, we often see 10, 20 years down the line where something could change, at which point, there would have to be a reevaluation of that number before the planning board, per, that additional language that Victoria mentioned.
And Victoria's rewriting that unit.
It's being written in real time, yeah.
Okay.
Just a quick question. Are there weekday holidays you observe? Like if Christmas were to fall on Wednesday, do you do trucking then or no?
No.
Okay. So there's some days in addition to weekends that you're not running trucks. it
Correct.
seems like. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, and so that
major holidays.
clause does indicate major
Should
holidays.
we identify major holidays? Because that could mean different things, but
How about June Day?
I don't
What about
think that was on our list.
What do you say?
heat? Is there a temperature
Oh,
where you cuddle?
I thought you were talking about the holidays.
Except on the holidays.
we could identify,
Yeah.
like, including but not limited to, so that we're sure that.
I'm trying to remember, we always go with, there's a federal regulation, I can look it up, we always include it in our construction specs to say, work is not permitted on the dates defined by CFR something.
Well, what's your baseline? What do you not work now? Just as.
We got Christmas, New Year's. I'm gonna look to Bob to finish this one off.
New Year's, Memorial Day, 4th of July, Labor Day,
Thanksgiving.
and Christmas.
How about, President's Day?
President's Day, Martin Luther King Day, Veterans Day,
Yeah.
and Juneteenth, and a lot of industries don't have off those days.
We don't have it though.
Aren't they major holidays? The banks are closed.
They're federal holidays, but they're not major holidays to industry, at least the way.
Municipalities are typically closed that day. Those holidays, yeah, I would definitely echo that. I don't get those off as a holiday either, most places.
I've been a federal employee too long.
Yeah. I don't get Christmas off.
I'm sorry, I work for school, so we get them.
You get them all off.
I'm sorry, I've been, I've had them all my life, so they're major. Okay,
Okay,
so
so
I
there's
can
five.
understand that.
Christmas, New Year's,
Okay.
Memorial Day, 4th of July, Labor Day, Thanksgiving.
Is that six?
Six.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yep.
We're out of order now.
Now, the maximum, truck traffic, the 284, figure, that's not that's in a different part of this document?
That is,
So
yes.
that was the basis of the town of Greenport's seeker findings.
Okay, so that.
So
Already included.
I just want to make sure, I didn't see it in this document, I want to make sure.
any decision that the city makes is based on the number that was included in that. If that number were to change, specifically increase, then those seeker, it would be in violation of.
I propose, if the board moves forward with it, that we add a condition, applicant shall not exceed 284 daily trips to and from the dock to the quarry, which was the limit of the project as set forth in the negative declaration. Any expansion or increase in vehicle trips shall require an amended conditional use permit and seeker review. So that's,
And what's that language, any what? Any,
I guess, any increase.
in the
in
the
vehicle
peak day?
trips.
No, in the peak day.
We're doing 284 peak day? I thought it was
It's a peak
284
day. Well, traffic analysis is based on peak days, but, so any change in the peak day would require us to come back.
Yeah, so as in the application, and I think I have Greenport's, language here as well, but it's peak day, it is defined in here also as the maximum condition.
Which is 284.
284 trips per day.
Round trips.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's 142 loads, 284 trips under a maximum condition.
Randall, number 4 covers your last question. And that's where we'll have that coverage.
Right, because it was a
Yeah.
pre-existing
It's a
condition.
permit
I just didn't
condition.
see it in this and I wondered, but
Yeah.
thank you.
Well, and even Greenport's, site plan approval of the project was based on the seeker findings.
Do we have any more questions?
The alternate routes, which one?
Okay, let's just go the alternate routes that we,
Yeah, I'll pull this back
last
up.
month, try to get through it, but because we had to cut the meeting short, everything got kind of confusing. So this meeting is very good, where everything's just laid out and not confusing.
All right, so what's currently shown here, let me get, okay. So the purple route is the proposed Hall Road. What I'll do here is I'll sketch out the route that we discussed. It's the current route from the quarry to the dock using Newman Road, Green Street, Columbia, 3rd Street, and then using the causeway to access Front Street, the Broad, and into the dock. So that was one of the blasting routes that we discussed a little bit earlier. We leave that in red, and then the other one that we discussed and what's shown here in orange is from Newman Road to Green, down Green to 7th, to Warren, Worth, Route 9, and then getting on the Hall Road at Route 9 to the dock. So it's really for blasting exceptions, it's the red route or the orange route that's been discussed.
The same color, but it's okay.
Can you change it orange?
Yeah.
I can, tell me, I'm just looking at this screen, so how's that? And the red kind of blends in, doesn't it? I don't know if that's any better.
Now, is my assumption correct that there's two issues, like, if you were to have an issue between 9G and the dock, would you still then take the other portion of the road that's from, I guess, above it? So you would still utilize the usable portions of the whole road? Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
So in other words, you're saying if they have an issue between 9G and the dock, that's
Right.
like the causeway.
Right,
The
if it were flooded or something, there was some issue.
Just 9G, and that's the little causeway,
Right,
right? So they still would take from their quarry on down to 9G, then how would they get to the dock?
Well, I think that speaks to the language of using the Hall Road to the greatest extent possible. So in that situation, if something is going on between 9G and Front Street, the Hall Road would be utilized all the way to 9G, and then Third, Columbia and Front most likely would be used to access the dock. However, you know, this is each segment of the Hall Road, other than the one through the quarry, which we're talking about defining, those events are unknown. It could be, I mean, I can say if a tree falls down, we're probably not gonna, or the applicant, Colarusso is not gonna go on city streets if they can push the tree out of the way.
Exactly.
So this is something where, you know, the event would likely have to be a washout flooding,
Possible.
for whatever reason, 9 or 9G, by state, you know, either state police or DOT is not allowing crossings of the road. Something that we, you know, can't anticipate now. Some of those, you know, we've obviously just
Cause we're also.
come up with, but.
We wanna look to make sure that, you know, and it's important. The area that they now impact coming back
Mhm.
is off limits.
Yeah, so, and you're speaking of Front Street from Broad to Columbia and then Columbia
Third,
from
yes,
Front
that's
to
the
Third.
that's the most dense impact area with children
Sure.
and everything.
So under these permit conditions, Colarusso trucks from quarry to dock trucks would not use those portions of city streets under any condition other than that force majeure that.
That causes the causeway to be flooded.
Yes.
More than likely, I thought you had mentioned last month that if that happened,
If the
the dock would die.
more likely than not, there's a certain very specific situation where it wouldn't be, but more likely than not, if the causeway is underwater, the dock will be underwater shortly, if not already.
All right, sounds good.
So which alternate route would the board like is preferable? If-
Well, we had proposed not changing the current route going from the quarry, if they have to use the roads, not to change that.
but you're not to use the 7th Street.
Right, and not to use the 7, because I don't know, I live up there, and those are some sharp turns. It's already a problem with the trucks that's turning now, just to add your trucks on there. And that's an impact area, you gotta park, a lot of things are going on the park, no, we're not doing that.
It's the impact on the city too.
And that's
I mean,
why-
a couple of turns, I mean, it's probably what, 1, 2, 3 turns. It's turning on 7th, turning on to
One,
Warren, and then
two.
turning on to Worth.
But now going
And Worth
straight,
isn't-
that,
Isn't a huge,
okay,
I mean, it's a bend in the road. and it's-
going straight doesn't allow them to do any turns. Those turns, you got parking, when you turn to park,
It
on
impacts
park.
the people in the city.
And that's part of the city too, that upper area, that's also part of that too. And they're already going down Columbia, which is now this Columbia from, where does it start? From the park all the way down, it's not the same Columbia that was back when it was, you know, had a lot of children, a lot of houses. We're just saying they have to stop at Third and then make that left on Third, which is what they're doing.
Right.
And taking Third into the causeway and then turning. And coming back, they have to take the same way.
Yeah, it's not
That's
different what
only-
they're doing, but it doesn't, they had articulated plans to go around the park a couple of times. 7th Street, which actually would be a new route.
Oh, right.
It'll be introduced in
That
another
would be my
route.
preference. So to answer the question, that's my preferred route. So-
Okay, but you know, to me, I don't wanna introduce a new route to his truck. I live on that area, I don't know who else does, and right now we have, I see it as a problem.
Do you wanna see what everyone else?
Oh, yeah, sure.
You guys go first.
I'm sorry. I'm
I'm
sorry, guys, but right now we just wanna get through to this.
I just had a question about the number of blasting.
Okay, we're gonna let Margaret talk, because she is she is head of the committee for the truck and route.
When you talk about the max of 40 blastings, are you talking specifically about blasting in that area which would require you to reroute trucks?
Yeah.
You would be doing other blasting in the other area, and that's not part of the discussion. correct?
Right, and that wouldn't affect it.
I mean-
And only when it affects the safety of that area.
When we have heard discussion of blasting in that particular area, that has required this in the past, it's been indicated that, sometimes it's only 6 times a year. So 40 sounded more like total blasting numbers to me of your current operation than blasting in that particular area per year.
So just to be
Yeah,
clear,
yeah.
the number 40 isn't the number of blasts in a year. It's proposed as the number of times Colarusso would be able to rely on this exception to go out the other entrance.
But it would be this exception specifically relating to when you blast, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is in our previous discussions that I've listened to, when you've talked about the number of times you blast in a year, that number has been, combining both locations, has been lower than 40. And talking only about the location that would require this exception, it's been talked about as less than 10 a year.
Yeah.
So 40 sounds like a large number to me for that particular location compared to what you're currently doing at that location.
Well, it is set up that way purposely to give the company some leeway.
But there's no way to, I understand what you're saying too, because you could do up to 40. The increase what you're doing now. Correct?
It does sound like an increase, yes. That's what I'm-
Say that again?
It potentially will allow you to blast more based on giving you that ceiling of 40 versus what is Margaret, right?
Yeah.
Is saying that currently you're doing around 10.
Oh, right. So what I'm saying is this is just 40 times that we can leave that exit. It's not a limit on blasting. So we could blast 400 times next year.
Understood.
Okay, yeah, I'm just,
All I'm
right, yeah.
saying is, how many times per year right now do you blast in that location that would require this exception?
We have blasted, that was our max that we've ever done was 40.
Yeah,
That's where that number
at
came
that location, right? Or.
And it would have been, yes, in that
In that
location.
one location, okay, thank you, that's the
Yeah.
question I was asking.
Okay, so in other words, you're going by what you did, this year.
No.
Under a map.
The map you did this year, yeah.
But, and all, the only point I was trying to make that, let's say we get to 40, that's midway through next year, we hit 40. And this was the permit as written. They would keep blasting. Just leaving and going on the city streets would be a violation of the permit. That's all that means.
And to be clear with what I just said, you know, making that turn on 7th Street, if it's gonna be 40 times a year,
No,
I don't think.
they're not.
If they're not blasting, they cut right straight down. Only when they're blasting, they would come in and over, you know,
Right.
down Columbia or over 7th, whatever way we decide to go. So it's not major to have just a little bit of inconvenience for a few turns. My feeling.
Yeah.
So
I understand.
I could be wrong.
Yeah, no, it's not a matter of wrong or right, it's a matter of your opinion,
Yeah.
and everybody has a right to have one.
Going back to the exception, the way it was written, and Victoria, I know you said you were going to make some adjustments. Is that something that you all are open to, or?
Well,
The part where it was except with the permit that we just discussed, and I know Victoria is changing it in real time, so is that something that you all would agree to, or how would that work?
So, I mean, at this point, I think they've proposed what they're proposing, and the ball's in the planning board's court to decide how to wordsmith these conditions so that they work for the planning board. So we can ask the applicant how they feel about that, but I expect that if you included that and voted on it, that would be the condition.
And I would just say that we would need some time to discuss that before we would like agree just in principle, like here tonight.
5 minutes.
And we're concerned that the language be crafted in such a way that you respect the boundaries that we've already discussed, that you can't influence or change the mining permit. So we wouldn't want to come back to the board. It depends on how the language reads, so I understand what you're trying to do.
And if there was an exception that we agreed upon, we would wanna have a time limit. Okay, if we had to come back to you because we needed more than 40 times this gate is closed, we would ask for a time limit. Okay, like, exactly. Okay, so we wouldn't wanna stretch that over a long period of time.
But
7 years, like 7 years.
But based on what you said before, most likely you wouldn't even get up to the exemptions.
That's what it
Right.
seems like.
I mean, the whole idea
From
is
what
that
Margaret
it would
said.
be maybe-
We didn't wanna limit ourselves at all.
Right.
Because we're starting to regulate ourselves by trying to put a haul road in to help the city, so we put in 40 to cover ourselves.
Okay.
But you're saying you anticipate that it would be maybe max 10 times, 15 times.
There's a lot of acres there, and it's gonna most likely be a limited amount of times we're in that area, but it's going to happen.
Yeah.
We just can't tell you exactly.
That is where most of the reserves are, on that side of the road.
Reserves meaning the,
It's where most of the stone is.
The stone that you
The
want.
rest of the life
stone
of
that
the
you,
mine,
yeah.
the
Mine
rest
is,
of the mine.
majority of it's on that
And
side.
how long does that last? How many years? The reserve you're talking about, like
100.
a
Hundreds of
hundred?
bombs.
100?
Probably 400 or 500.
Oh, okay.
How long has it been mined so far?
Yeah.
Think about it,
400, yeah.
easily.
But your current operations in terms of the scopes of rocks and materials that you offer, you don't intend to change that. That remains consistent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, any more questions from the board? Okay, okay, John gave his opinion on the alternate route to any one of you guys. We're proposing or asking that the alternate route be, if for some reason they cannot, they have to come back on the streets. Right now, we're trying to keep them off the streets. And we're trying to, take Front Street off and, Columbia from Front to Third. It's like, so right now, we're proposing that they leave the quarry, come down, continue going from the quarry to the dock as they've been doing for the last many years, which is making a left at Third, and then catching the causeway to the dock and coming back the same way. If there's a problem with the Hall Road, then they cannot go on that road. Okay? That was one proposal.
With the whole road between 9 and 9G.
Yeah,
Right.
between 9 and 9G. Right. Oh, no, also, no, even if, between the quarry line,
Trace that.
before,
Yeah.
Newman Road. all the
So
way down.
I
Yeah,
think
any of those two,
Right,
those two
right.
parcels, those two segments.
Right. So, excuse me, what did you say, Bettina?
I said if Ryan could just trace it as you're talking, so that I could get that visual.
Okay. All right.
So the one blast and contingency route here in Green, Newman, Green Street, 7, Warren, and 9, to then use the Hall Road from 9 to the dock, or the yellow route, that would use Newman Road, Green, Columbia, 3rd, and then the Hall Road from 9G to the dock. So those are the two different,
And back.
the two different routes that have been discussed.
Any questions about that? Oh, okay.
Well, I would say, just in terms of my observation of traffic safety, right by the Citgo and 9G, there's a lot of traffic coming out of that. Out of the gas station, coming from, you have all points of cars intersecting there. And I think if you now throw a truck into the mix in that turn, especially if there's cars already parked on both sides, I think that's a bad traffic scenario. And then trying to make that turn.
But it's a
And
number of times a year. If they had to do it all the time, it probably wouldn't be. a good
And,
idea.
okay, and we're introducing a new route, you know, and, you know, why introduce a new route when they could just continue?
I know, but it would make a blind turn when that truck is going and turning from Green onto Seventh. That creates, because of the length of the truck,
Right.
you're not gonna be able to see any of the oncoming traffic.
Yeah, but what happens now with other trucks?
It's a problem.
It's a problem.
That's a problem.
It is. It's a problem now.
But
We really don't wanna add, I don't wanna add to it.
Yeah, that's, so,
So that's the problem with the existing trucks. I just don't wanna add new trucks to that route. I mean, you know.
Where I'm conflicted on this is, so the green route where Seventh Street Park is, maybe this is a little bit of an aside, but they just want 500,000 to redo the park, and then to add trucks to that situation, they're trying to make it more of an area where people are gonna go. So to add trucks, it kind of undermines the work that they're gonna do there. The other hand, that's hard for me with the yellow route is there's just statistically more people there and less trees, and it's gonna add to the urban heat island effect to continue to have even more trucks go down.
they're gonna go by the other way anyway, down Columbia Street.
And they go down Columbia now. That's the.
No, I know, I'm saying neither of us.
That's
We can agree on that.
And this is only gonna be when they cannot use the hall.
Oh, yes, no, totally understood.
We're also allowing all our customers to use the access of Route
Oh,
9, which will keep them from going through the Seventh Street Park. So you're gonna reduce a large number of trucks there as well.
And we're gonna, can we add that to the resolution? About your customers?
We did.
Yeah, it's in.
okay. Is there any, now I know that you can't force a customer to do anything per se.
Yeah.
But is there anything within your terms of sale or anything that you could do to strongly encourage that?
We'll have the signage, and I'm sure that the owners of those vehicles are not gonna want them to drive 2.5 miles out of the way, there and back.
Right, and realize that they're gonna be creating an issue for you because it's hard to distinguish where those trucks are coming from. So they would most likely be, could be conflated or confused with trucks that you would have with exemption. So it'd be to your best interest to make sure that they didn't ride the trucks.
I mean, we wanna allow them to go in and get a sandwich or a coffee, but their normal route will be coming into Route 9 access.
John, did you wanna say this?
Oh, no, he was
Okay.
No, it's explaining.
Because, yeah, when you guys talk, that microphone, have you looked at the video? Picks it up.
That's okay.
Okay. Any more questions from the board?
We need
regards to
the
alternative
consensus. We need the consensus of, we know what, we know.
routes? Okay, so Valerie?
Yeah, I'm not. I'm not, I don't think it's necessary to introduce another route. I just think it's probably too much going on, so to have, I just don't think it's necessary.
Can you speak up?
She said she doesn't think it's necessary to, introduce a new route. We just have too much going on right now in the city. Did you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, that's you. Okay, Bettina?
I'm fine with it saying the way it is, minimal. I'm quite sure you heard me.
Okay, so,
I'm also fine with it staying the way it is. That's the better of the options.
and I'm fine with it because it's the better of the option.
We still have, Ben, did you?
I think the only reason I decided on the other is that it's gonna be 20 to 40 times a year. It's not gonna be every day, so that, it's a minor inconvenience that winds up, saving another that amount of truck cuts, however little it might be, so.
Well, we are cutting, if this was adopted, then cut truck traffic for them, we might would be cut 90%. So it wasn't possible,
Right.
but that's not insignificant.
Right.
So we have the consensus of the alternate route?
I like it.
Okay. Oh, I don't do it all in favor.
No.
Okay,
I was
good.
just trying to get a general
All right,
consensus.
so,
So,
okay, we're gonna,
it's up to the board if you have more questions. At some point, you do need to dig into the conditional use permit criteria. There's really only two that are applicable to a haul road. The majority of it is written for the dock operation, which is not part of this project. I know I gave everyone worksheets at the last meeting. I filled them out.
Now, there we,
But,
headache.
so when you're ready, we can do that, but
Okay, are we all clear on the alternative route on the special conditions and? Yeah, okay, so now I'm going to let Victoria go into a different segment of this application.
so maybe there's a few ways to do this. I actually was directed to draft a resolution. It's quite long because there's a lot of history to this project. No, I'm saying as a way to go through this, I can just pull it up and we can talk through, if that makes sense for everyone. Just the conditional use permit section at this point.
And the reason why we want to get to a resolution is because of the time that we close the public hearing only gives us, what, 62 days? And we are actually at the 62 days.
We are at,
We're at the 62 days
Oh,
today.
precisely, because we didn't get it.
Yeah, we have figured that out 2 meetings ago.
Okay.
That we were gonna be at the 62 days today.
Okay.
Okay, and there are a lot of legalities that, I mean, I'm not pushing you guys to do anything, but I'm just saying that, I'm gonna let her go through.
so in your zoning law, there's the core riverfront district has a list of allowable uses. And one of the allowable uses is what we're calling the Paul Road, the road back and forth. So there's criteria that the board has to consider and you have to make findings. So what this is if you look up, I have it up on the screen, it's probably hard to read. I'll give you back a copy, the board of copies.
Got the little glasses.
Maybe I can make this bigger.
Big Frodo 125 or one of them.
Yeah,
big
let's
ones.
see.
Yeah.
Would be great. Let's make it 300.
Okay, 200, there we go.
There we go.
Okay. So the first one is for all conditional uses where the subject property abuts the water, planning board shall consider the quality and extent of views from adjacent public streets through the property to the water. This is not applicable because the project does not abut the water.
Does it include the water on the causeway? That's a string of it. It's just as water, doesn't say.
That's a good
river.
question, but I think the intention is water. Yeah, the river. And in fact,
Put river.
if I pull up here, the core riverfront district, oh, I didn't. Let me pull up this. Sure. These are the standards in the code themselves.
You have to enlarge that.
I know, but so this is what I was just reading. So where the property abuts the water shall consider quality and extent of views. So I think it's talking about the riverfront.
Will we be rewording it if we said riverfront?
No. Yes, we'd be rewording it.
Which may not apply.
Well, we can take it to mean that in this context, so we can state that we're taking it to mean that in this context, even though it is unclear.
So I just want to show you something else, before I go back to the resolution here. Where it talks about private causeway or private road that provides ingress and egress to from the property. It seems to imply that 2H and K are the relevant criteria that need to be met.
Okay.
There was no K.
Is H there?
There's an H, there was no K, so what I did in the resolution was I just wrote them all in and figured we may as well go through all of them, and then there's no argument about what was supposed to apply and what the. Okay, so A. Emissions of dust, smoke, gas, odor, or air pollution, or by reason of the deposit, discharge, or dispersal of liquid or solid waste in any form in a manner or amount as to cause permanent damage to the soil or water shall not adversely affect the surrounding area or create a nuisance. So this is something that you guys need to decide if you're finding, but this is some language that I lifted from the negative declaration, which, as we know.
Can you read that one more time?
Sure, the concept here is that the road will not have emissions, dust, smoke, gas, odor, or air pollution, or result in permanent damage to soil or waters, or adversely affect the surrounding area or create a nuisance.
But we can't.
Well, so what we know is that the applicant proposed to pave the Hall Road and Front Street to mitigate issues from dust.
Mhm.
So that first part is what the applicant has proposed to address that. It will not result in moderate, this is from the negative declaration, and I can, it will not result in moderate to large impacts on air, no air permits are needed for the construction, and then I wrote, the town of Greenport determined in its negative declaration, there will be an increase in fossil fuel consumption by heavy machinery during construction, but that's a minor and temporary increase, not anticipated to have any measurable impact on local air quality. And two, project will decrease truck emissions in historically disadvantaged neighborhoods.
Which is the truth.
So, I mean, we can add to this, you can talk about,
Any questions from the board on this one, Gentlemen? Anybody? Okay. Are we okay with this one? Any questions? Any?
Question to Ryan. Have you ever seen, this might be like a stretch and very strict, so I don't wanna impose anything like that, but have you ever seen a community like do any types of measurements each year to see how air quality changes year over year? I wouldn't,
I have not.
okay, I didn't know if that's like a very strict.
I have not seen, now, it
It
could
just helps us
be,
understand our air quality and.
yeah,
year over
and, you know, I think there's testing requirements for permitted air source, you know, when you need an air permit. So if there's usually it's a factory or something like that, that has a point discharge. But I've never seen it as a requirement for done, in a generic sense, unless it's by like a not-for-profit that's just doing it everywhere.
Okay, cool. We can keep going.
okay.
I just wanted to see.
So B, again, this is one of the items I didn't think was applicable. In order to minimize nuisance noise from loading dock operations to residential receptors, noise shall be kept within the limits established in 210. And the response here is that the project does not involve operations at the dock, which will be reviewed under a separate application. However, the board notes that the negative declaration states that the project is in a historically mixed-use industrial area. This is from Greenport's document. The train station, which is close in proximity, operations inherently generate significant noise due to the locomotive engine, train cars, and locomotive horn. Also extinguishers that are loud, if not louder than the noise generated from the trucks. I think there's a typo in there, which I'll fix. Therefore, the continued truck traffic in the waterfront is consistent with ambient noise levels in this area. The project will also move the noise created by the trucks on city streets off of the city's truck route and onto this new road, thus lowering the city's noise impact overall. So that's a finding from the city of Greenport, that addresses this criteria in your law, which is not really applicable because it's only about the dock operation in any event. But if you have anything to add, change, we can discuss.
Not here.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, again, this one's a dock operation. Loading or unloading operations at the docks and truck arrivals and departures shall be limited to the hours of 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So we wrote, the applicant has proposed to limit hauling between the quarry and the dock to between the hours of 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. Monday through Thursday and 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Friday. Hauling between the quarry and the dock shall not be conducted on weekends and major holidays. This is more restrictive and in compliance with the standard.
Is this where we wanted to add those 5 holidays?
Yeah.
We can add them here. So it was.
Yeah, so everybody can understand it, because a holiday to them,
6 holidays.
a holiday to me is not a holiday to you guys and everybody else that may question that.
And the times that are there are the currently it's 7 to 7?
No,
No,
it was
this is
reduced changes to them.
Okay.
The code would allow the planning board to approve something up to 7 o'clock, but
Okay.
this has been tightened up further.
Okay.
What is included but not limited?
It means, I don't know, you can close on other holidays, or if the government comes up with another major holiday, then.
Okay.
Yeah. We still got 5 minutes to say.
I don't know. Okay, truck engine idling is prohibited at loading docks. The project does not involve operations at the dock, which will be reviewed under a separate application. There's no idling on the Hall Road proposed. Artificial lighting facilities of any kind with light sources visible beyond the lot lines or which create glare are prohibited. Again, the project does not propose any lighting.
Is that correct? There's not any lights on.
So the whole road would have no lights?
Oh, it's a daytime operation.
No, well,
No.
if they're working until, what time, 6?
Well, this time.
During the
yeah.
It's
winter,
covered,
yeah, you start getting dark at 4:30, you still.
Well, the trucks have lights.
I was waiting for it.
I know.
But a lot of the other, a lot of the other routes, a lot of other roads don't have lights too.
I don't know that, you know.
Shut your headlights
We
off.
haven't seen that.
You guys can.
We're good.
I don't know.
Lights bother
Then
them.
it can bother people,
What?
if they have lights, they can see.
And nobody else is, we're
No
not
one
supposed to
else is
anybody
out
else be on that road.
Right.
So this is another one which, talked about the dock. Visual impact associated with such operation shall be minimized. Corridors from a public street or tract of land that provide a direct and unobstructed view to the water from a vantage point within a public street, park, or other place shall be protected wherever possible. Outdoor storage of goods and raw materials shall be screened from the public view. The project does not involve operations of the dock, which will be reviewed under a separate permit.
Did we talk about, I mean, it might have been a different, project, did we talk about? Is that the city's land, tree planting along as the road comes to?
That has been a discussion, but it's in regard to the dock operation.
Okay,
So it would be reviewed under that conditional use permit.
okay. So, but where you exit to make the right to go to the quarry. I mean, sorry, to the dock, that there could be some more trees that are planted.
Down with the
See that.
facilities.
We'll double check the DEC permit,
Okay,
because there's vegetation we have to, allow for on the grass filter strips on each side of the road. There may be some trees, we'll take a look as you, come out by the trestle.
yeah, just big ones that would, you're further obscure and hide the.
But we have to go by that permit, so if
Understood.
they're in there, we'll put them.
Okay.
As far as practical, public access to and along the river shall be incorporated into site designs for conditional uses, but shall not substantially interfere with established uses on the property. Again, I wrote that it doesn't involve operations of the dock. It's not one of the criteria identified in the section of the code as having to be pertained to the Hall Road, but we can discuss if you want to change the answer. Because the dock is the piece of land between the public road and the river. So I didn't think this criteria was applicable to the Hall Road.
Well, this specifically says public access to and along the river.
Right. Okay, so H, this one is applicable. In areas of annual flooding, floodplain shall be preserved in their natural state to the maximum possible extent practicable to protect water retention, overflow, and other natural functions. So this is language, mostly from the negative declaration or from other documents, but the project involves the rehabilitation and expansion of the Hall Road, which utilizes an abandoned rail bed. The project area within the city has already been disturbed. The negative declaration determined that the project may have a small impact on one or more wetlands or other surface water bodies as the project passes in close proximity to both state and federally regulated wetlands near the city of Hudson Town of Greenport line, across 9G in the South Bay Causeway. Across the causeway, the existing one-way roads within 2 to 3 feet of the edge of the wetland. With a 100-foot buffer zone from the state wetlands on either side of the causeway, the entire causeway is within a buffer zone. As a result, any work classified as other than routine maintenance requires a permit from NYSDEC, which has been obtained and is current. And Ryan did verify that the permit, that one is good through 2025, I believe.
I think that one might be 2024, but it's,
It's
November, maybe.
valid and current now.
yes.
And I have a list in. The federal wetlands share the same boundaries as the state wetlands. They don't have a buffer zone. And they've received a general permit for maintenance work associated with the disturbance of the ACOE regulated wetlands. And an individual permit is not required. The project proposes to widen the existing travel surface across the South Bay Causeway to 24 feet from 16 feet in order to allow for two-way traffic. As a mitigating measure to any potential increase in dust or sediment transport, the road will be relocated to the center of the causeway. The existing truck route will be topsoiled and seeded. This will provide a grass buffer strip of approximately 20 feet to the nearest edge of the wetland. Grass filter strip will provide for a reduction in sediment transport to the wetlands. No part of the proposed project requires any filling or disturbance of any wetlands. Compliance with stormwater regulations is required, and they have a current permit.
That is also correct.
So any other language, Ryan, do you want to add anything to the board members?
I don't have anything to add. I would just, remind those board members that went on the site visit of how close the current gravel road is to the edge of the wetland. So this will relocate that further away and establish that buffer area. So any runoff will be filtered out. And that was a requirement of the DEC wetland adjacent area permit. So there will be an increased filtration from that. And the grade, because I know we talked about this at one point, the haul road will move to a higher ground. The causeway is really, the whole thing is crowned, and where the former rail bed is slightly higher than the current route. But there is no change in final grade. It's going to maintain that grade through the causeway portion.
Okay, J, construction, reconstruction, or resurfacing of other improvements to the dock operations. This includes private roads providing ingress and egress to the dock operations shall be performed in a manner which preserves natural features and drainways, minimizes grading and cut and fill operations, ensures conformity with natural topography, and retains natural vegetation and vegetative buffers around water bodies to the maximum extent practicable in order to prevent any increase in erosion or the volume and rate or velocity of sedimentation or surface water runoff prior to, during, and after site preparation and work. So this is similar to the answer above. It's located on an existing abandoned railway, has historically been used as a road for transport. Expansion of the haul road will have a small impact on drainage and sediment control, which both the stormwater plan and sediment control plan have been reviewed by the planning board. The end. Relocation of the haul road towards the center of the existing causeway will maintain as well as increase minimum shoulder widths to provide for additional buffer to the wetland, as well as to provide for a larger grass filter strip areas for stormwater runoff. Oh, okay.
Just to wise, the road is going to be at the same height as 9G,
Well, I want to put it in
Right.
there. This is contingent.
more or less.
Yes, it's gonna be close.
Okay. That's when you said, I was thinking about if the road was a little higher, then the water would come down. Would have the unintended consequence.
There's actually the low point of the causeway portion is right where the culvert crossing is now. So it's generally, generally the same height. However, going west from 9G, it drops a bit in grade and then comes back up to Front Street.
Right, from 9 to 9G, 9 is high.
9G to Front Street, sorry if I misspoke.
9G.
So there is a low point between 9G and Front Street on the haul road.
Correct.
On the causeway.
On the causeway.
Right. Which would be the natural drainage point if you had, accumulation.
That's gonna be the first flood location.
But the other road from nine to nine, because that road is higher. And it comes down, but then I think the last part of that road is pretty flat.
Yes.
Okay.
So those are the conditional use criteria under your zoning, law, so the core riverfront district. So we just talked through.
Any questions from the board? Anything you wanna get, Victoria to go over? Okay. So, before we go any further, I think we should do a resolution.
Sure. Okay.
We wanna, I wanna get a motion on a resolution. You guys gonna have to replenish your escrow. The report that I got from the treasurer. If your escrow to be covered low. If you don't have enough money in your escrow to pay the bills that's coming in from November or today. Okay, so
We're supposed to see the bills before they're
You
paid,
can-
so we had no idea.
yeah, they'll contact the treasurer. We can give you all the. We're just here to let you know that I get the reports and. So,
You need a motion?
yeah, motion to have Carlos replenish the escrow by 10,000.
I'll make a motion.
Now, second. Okay, that's random. Cause I get these motions out much faster than the notes. You know, give me you got the people, like you. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, thank you. And you'll be getting that resolution very soon, okay? Because we have bills coming in from last month, there's no money to pay.
Okay, so I guess the next question is, do you want to keep going through? What do you want to do?
Are we ready tonight to make a vote on this application?
Will it have to be pending all the language?
I mean, I have a draft resolution I can put up, and we can go through it line by line and see what you guys are thinking.
To adopt this resolution tonight, we're gonna put it up. Are we ready? Is there any more questions that we didn't? Anything you need to go over? No enough?
I think that's fine.
Okay.
Go through it.
Thank you.
And if you're not comfortable at any point, we'll.
It's also being at 62 days.
Right.
I feel like we are at the end of our line.
If we don't do it tonight, we're gonna have to come back this month, like next weekend. And right now, we have a full board and
Oh, yeah.
holiday season. Okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Chairwoman, how do you want to proceed? Do you want to have board members take turns reading, or do you just want everyone to read quietly? And I will scroll. I don't think I could read all 12 pages.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, you guys have it there.
I mean, I have paper copies.
Yep, okay, give it.
I'll give everyone.
Yeah.
So
I didn't know you had to be-
there's a few typos in the paper copies, but don't read the conditions have been changed. But the
Yeah.
first 10 pages should be.
Right, and I'm gonna, can we take about,
Yeah, you want to take.
how many minutes it's gonna take?
Yeah, let's see, we'll take a recess and read it.
Yeah, we'll take a recess and give you guys a chance to read it.
May we please have a copy?
Yes, I have.
Oh.
If you must.
Here you go, sir.
Is your change in there?
No,
Okay, Kate, do you have that? We
I
can
have
look
it
at
here.
that while we're
Sure.
on break?
we can do that.
Okay.
I can't print,
Can you print?
No, we'll just, we'll adapt it.
but you know, I'll put it up on the screen.
There's an extra.
Is that possible?
But not of her, that.
No.
Sign it,
Just
so
this,
they
just
get
this
it,
one.
right?
Oh,
The resolution.
no, if you adopt it, then it's done.
Okay.
So let me zoom it out a little bit.
So
Can you read
Just
that?
Does the board wanna go into a break during this period?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Can we, yeah.
Yeah.
Adjourn for about 10 minutes to give them time to read this.
And then
And what time is it?
Yeah, I think first.
It's 7:30.
It's 7:34, let's adjourn till about 7:34. 10 minutes. 54. very affordable.
Is that something, can you save that?
Affordable.
Can you send that document and send it as a link, just so we see what can do?
We're doing this in a minute break, but we have.
Well, yeah, I have the other conditions on the screen.
I can, yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay, so here, I'll send it to you, no problem. Let me just get out of that.
Yeah, you said.
I'll send it to, okay.
Let's go to the bathroom. I read it already.
Do what, they mean?
Like,
Audio is live.
We are?
You're live.
Okay, this is the Hudson City Planning Board.
I don't know if agents is the best.
2020 wait a minute. 2023, we reconvene our meeting at 7:56 PM. So the question is, did everyone in the board get a chance to read the resolution?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Are there any questions that, from what you read? Victoria's gonna go through it, but if you have questions. Yes, Victoria's gonna go page by page, and if you have any questions, you can ask at that time, okay? All right.
Okay, save one. It starts detailing the history of the project, defines the haul road, the quarry, the dock, the site plan set. It includes a footnote, that basically says, all road, private road, South Bay, Causeway, truck route, terms are used interchangeably, not intended to impart any legal significance on the use of the road. Okay, so then it goes through the fact that, the city amended its zoning law. And they had a final generic environmental impact statement completed, which was the basis for adoption of the city zoning amendments. And then, it includes language from the city's finding statements about, what it hoped to achieve with the amendments. And a lot of it talks about the truck route, environmental justice. That you can put conditions on hours of operations, truck idling, which you are talking about. Okay, so page 2.
And it talks about the LWRP too.
Right, it identifies that the LWRP is a guidance document, which illustrates the city's intention for the waterfront. Then we've included the permits here.
Would the LWRP, could you elaborate more on where it states about eliminating truck traffic? Would the, of the whole road?
Yeah,
Add that to it, because it does state that in there.
It
And it's
does.
something we are working, it's one of the bases that we're working on.
so as I get down further, we did call out 2 pages.
Okay,
In the LWRP.
yes,
Where it talks about that. So then go through the permits that the project has. Identify the need for some additional permits. The impact letter, then this goes through the history with the town of Greenport, that Greenport classified it as type 1. The planning board tried to assert itself as lead agency, saying that it was the appropriate body because the town wasn't going to consider all the impacts. There was a dispute that went to the DEC, which is the agency which resolves these disputes. DEC agreed it should be the town of Greenport. Thereafter, Greenport issued a negative declaration and made the following findings as part of its negative declaration. So this just, restates those findings.
Call history.
The negative declaration is based on the Greenport Planning Board's review of a project with a maximum truck volume of 284 trips per day. The city challenged the neg deck in an Article 78 proceeding. But the court upheld the negative declaration, it appealed this, and the court dismissed the appeal. So you're bound by that negative declaration. We did refer it to County Planning Board, which responded on August 17th, 2020. It recommended approval, and the planning board has the following comments. The Columbia County Planning Board was supportive of the project. It found that the improvements would allow for removal of truck traffic, positive impact by reduction of truck traffic, increase the efficiency of material transport, support the goals of the county. It noted the negative declaration. So these are the planning board's notice. And it encouraged Colarusso to commit to using the haul road to the maximum extent possible. And then it identifies that you've discussed alternate routes, including Newman Road, which is prohibited due to adopted weight limits. In November 2021, the planning board adopted a positive declaration for the dock operation, which includes traffic to and from the dock. The applicant challenged that positive declaration, asserting that including the route to and from the dock was prohibited because it had already been reviewed under seeker. And the court agreed and granted a declaratory judgment that the Hall Road was not subject to any further seeker review by the city of Hudson, directed site plan approval to proceed. And then, the appellate division modified, the statement that is directed to proceed with decision on the Hall Road is directed to issue forthwith. So in July, the applicant requested to be placed on the next planning board agenda. Just identifying that there's a change in members, setting forth that the board diligently reviewed this application. So it was put on the next few agendas. We had a public hearing. You received written comments, you reviewed the written comments, you had a special meeting. And then adding that throughout this whole review process, the planning board has accepted and considered numerous written comments from the public. So even outside of the public hearing. So the first one is the criteria for conditional use permits. It's the first resolve clause. And we went through this earlier. So I'm just gonna read through it. Then it says, be it further resolved, the planning board makes the following additional findings. So here, this language might need to be tweaked because I don't think I got the percentage right during the discussion, Brian. Construction of the Hall Road will reduce truck traffic on city streets by 99%?
That is correct. So under that maximum blasting contingency, that would be, we're going from 4380 hours per year to the 40 blasting events per year.
So the limitation on use during 40 blasting events would eliminate, reduce this number. $40 hours. The applicant had estimated that each blasting event results in a closure of about 1 hour. And confirming that's correct. Okay.
Can I ask a question about the 1 hour, about the blasting? Is there any way that you can move it to the beginning or end of the day to reduce the disruption?
In our permit, we're required to blast between, I believe it's 10 and 5.
Oh, is it? Okay, all right.
Restricted.
I was just curious. I thought, if you did it and then.
Yeah, no, it's.
Pick it up, it would be.
Okay.
Just
And-
curiosity.
And you also stated that you may be blasting on the holidays, that the trucks are not moving.
Correct.
Like, in other words,
Well-
just because the trucks are not moving, doesn't mean your operation is not going on. So that can be a blasting day also, right? Okay, you have how many, 7 holidays?
6.
6?
Yeah.
It's the kind of blast.
I don't know if that's true. I don't know if we can actually.
Blast on the holiday? Oh, cause you have to have somebody
You have
from
to
the
have an
state there?
inspector to watch it.
No, it might be in our permit, but I'm not 100% sure. We might be restricted on blasting on major holidays. It might be.
Oh, but you said it.
You said what?
You said that, you said that it would be, you'd be operating, so.
Well, the major holiday will be off,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so that'll
Trucks.
match up. No,
Yeah, I mean, we don't work Christmas.
Oh, you
or-
guys, okay. 'Cause it
So there
said-
won't be blasting on those 6
But
holidays because
but didn't it say that the operation at the dock and the, quarry may go on even though the trucks are not running on the holidays?
That's
Okay, so
correct.
who's gonna be there?
The major holidays, nobody will be. The additional holidays that you mentioned,
So
will be.
That-
Veterans Day, there'll be hauling
Oh, okay, I
operations
understand
and
that.
there could be hauling operations, dock operations, quarry operations. Outside of those 6 holidays that we discussed.
Okay, then just identifying that there are currently no limits on the applicant's use of the city streets. City streets. which, you know, at some point, the city may adopt a weight limit, which could restrict truck traffic, but that's not happened. Planning board finds the city of Hudson LWRP supports the project appropriately balances economic and functionality of the waterfront with the preservation of the beauty of the area. LWRP on page 11 explicitly recognized applicants' use of the dock over the course of the next 25 years and the importance of the dock on the economy. The LWRP on page 27 explicitly supports the construction of the Hall Road as a means to eliminate the heavy truck traffic in the city of Hudson. The applicant's use of the city of Hudson poses an environment of the city truck route, that was right. Would you say city streets, poses an environmental justice issue as it affects historically underserved communities. The LWRP on page 116 asserts the findings in the negative declaration that the use and construction of the Hall Road will not have a significant effect on the wetlands surrounding it. And is the intention of the planning board to eliminate truck traffic from the city of Hudson streets in line with county planning board and LWRP recommendations. So again, these are suggestions. These can be edited, modified, deleted. These are just, and they're from the discussion.
Does anyone add, modify, anybody? I mean, we're still, you know, if you.
So, look, we talked about the 62-day issue.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily binding. What would happen is the applicant would run to the judge and say, you know, judge, the planning board's delaying, and we go through a whole litigation. I had asked them to give you an extension. They're choosing not to. So, you know, the 62 days ends today, but the consequence of not voting within 62 days remains easy. Okay, so, then there's be it further resolved, grant site plan approval, authorize the chairperson or her authorized designee to sign the site plan after compliance with the following conditions. I identified 2 conditions. Ryan, I don't know if there were others or if the planning board had others. This is on the actual construction of the Hall Road.
Didn't we gonna give him a time limit to, how long would it take you to build that Hall Road? If we approve it, how long would it take you? A year, 6 months?
It would probably be, maybe say by November, 24 should be.
So can we kind of put, you know, like a year, 12 months, something like that?
So I had put further down that the applicant shall commence construction of the Hall Road within 12 months of the date of the resolution.
Commence?
Or its site plan shall expire, I guess I could say. Commence, but
Can we find them?
we can't find them.
We can't.
We don't have enforcement authority. All we can do is set the conditions within which they operate.
Okay, let's give them 18 months. You wanna say 18?
To commence?
Oh, finish, start? You saying it should start?
This only said commence.
Right.
Commence, and, yeah, I like the way it's written. Well, yeah, should be able to get it done.
Well, okay, well, you wanna come back to this?
But no, it's just, and shall complete the project within 18 months?
But then I guess the question is, what is the outcome? They have to come back for an extension, they have to come back and do.
Maybe an extension, that's it. What do you guys think? I mean, we just want you to.
What's
build
the,
the
what's
road.
the, what's the fear? That we would start it and then just never do it?
Or never started.
After all
Or never
this?
finished. No, it could happen, anything could happen, anything could happen, I mean, it's unforeseen circumstances, and we still, you know, want you to concentrate on it. To get it done, so if you don't get it done in a certain amount of time, I'm suggesting that you have to come back for an extension, that's it,
But what would we be extending?
the time.
That time period,
That time
not to
period.
commence, to complete the project?
But to complete it, because I think the public has an expectation that it's gonna be built and that, you know, what we're talking about is gonna come to
And
fruition.
I've never seen that in a permit before, but you would say then perhaps, Victoria, and complete the construction of the Hall Road within 18 months unless extended by the planning board upon applicant's request.
Okay. If It's the board wants.
How does that sound to you?
I mean, that's
beautiful the way it is, but I wouldn't use that.
What do you think?
Logical sense.
Okay, how about you, Val, everybody?
Can you guys do
That's
that?
fine, I mean, they want the road, so why would they?
Yeah.
You said November.
We wanna make sure.
I mean,
Let's put it on.
If you're okay with it,
I'm probably
and,
asking the wrong person.
if they're okay with it, and it adds cushion, then that's fine for me.
What if there's just unforeseen act of God that maybe something we couldn't do it, I don't know.
Then you come back and just get an
Okay.
extension, that's it.
Well, I know, I mean, Tina was saying she was good with that, if there was just more language in there saying.
Should say shall, request an extension.
Yes.
So
Yeah, I
sometimes
get that.
planning boards will allow, you know, 2 1-year extensions upon application.
Wait a minute, we all can't talk at the same time.
That gives you to December.
Okay, Bettina, what'd you have to say?
I'm just saying that he said he could have it done by November, that's why I was holding him to that 12 months, you know, that gives him the little cushion, that gives him an extra month.
Okay.
Go down it now.
Yeah, we wanna make it very clear and put it in writing, that's my suggestion, how about Valerie, Ben, John?
I mean,
Can we add which extension shall not be unreasonably withheld?
Of course. Yes, in my opinion, yes, John.
It's very smiling, but you was asking the same thing.
It's just to hold you to what you say, is so to let the public know the expectations are being, upheld, that's it.
Good. There's something wrong with that sentence, but what's that means?
Yeah, I think set can be removed.
Site, I think it was supposed to be site.
Where's,
Approval of the
But what's
site.
site?
Oh, well, that's because
Okay,
it's a defined
so-
term.
oh, okay. Oh.
I know it's a little awkward, but it's defined, you know, page 1 or something, and the site plan said.
Oh, in 2006.
Oh.
But this doesn't talk about, this doesn't cut to the heart of the issue of completion. This just talks about commencement.
You wanna say I completed within 8, with it?
Yeah, if that's the intent, well, if that's the intent, that's.
Why not just do shall complete construction within X months and not even mention commencing? I mean, I don't think you need to have both.
Right.
Shall complete within 24 months or 18 months.
18 months of, what?
Your,
Approval.
any action, yeah.
Yeah, of the approval date, or resolution date, which is the approval date, yes. Okay. So, 18 months within the approval date, guys?
You can and it can be extended
Right. If they come
upon
back.
application to the planning board.
And this means if you run out of money, you have to go find it somewhere.
We'll pay it for that.
That's a good one.
Pick up trucks going to the dump.
Okay, should we go back up? We can come back to that. So we were at site plan approval. So are there any other conditions that need to be met before the site plan set can be signed and they can pull a building permit?
Victoria, I just had a question on number 2,
Mhm.
just above where you're highlighting. The
Yeah.
issue is floodplain development permit pursuant to chapter 148. Is
Yeah.
that chapter 148, I'm assuming, of the city of Hudson code?
Did I get the chapter number wrong? Let's see.
It just hasn't come up in 7 years, so we don't know what it is. And why would we have a contingent permit? You know what that's
Chapter
about?
148.
Say again,
What if that's denied?
What is
the floodplain development permit?
Yeah, is that required?
Yeah, it's required under any work within a designated flood hazard area in the city of Hudson.
Why wasn't it identified?
It has been brought up and identified.
It isn't even in the SEIS stuff. Well, what if that's denied? What happens?
So I can't speak to the city's floodplain development permit
Who grants it or denies it?
process. I cannot speak to that because I'm not involved in it. However, floodplain development permits are typically kind of like a building permit in my point of view, that if you comply with the, requirements of the code that Victoria is pulling up, it is a ministerial permit.
Is that how you see it, Victoria? It's ministerial?
Jared, is that the permit that they were looking for many years ago?
Many years ago, somebody mentioned it and it went
They
away.
had to develop the application.
Yeah, that's the one.
Did we ever get it? I
No.
don't even know if we ever got an application.
No,
I don't know if there's been one.
it went,
Yeah, I
it
don't
came
know.
up about 5 years ago and went away in a month.
I'm looking to see who the flood development.
I believe it's the Hudson Development Corporation Executive Director. Is that,
Sheena was the one that.
it was Sheena back
Right.
when Sheena,
Normally,
and that was.
it's the building inspector, but.
I remember conversation,
Yeah.
we had to reach out to Sheena.
When we talked about it,
You reached out to her and she had no idea what you were talking about, correct?
That's how it went.
yeah, that is the permit we're talking about.
Okay. So is there one?
Do they have?
So somebody know about it now. If it's ministerial, who's the minister?
Here, the executive, here, 148-10, I just pulled it up. Executive Director of the Hudson Community Development Planning Agency hereby appointed local administrator to administer and implement this chapter by granting or denying development permits in accordance with its provisions.
That's HCPDA,
There must have been other ones that have been
HCDPA
required.
committee.
You know who that is? The executive director.
I mean, we could Google it.
We have, you know, there's a committee in Hudson. That is a committee in Hudson.
I mean,
Been involved in any of them?
it's
No.
a required permit.
And the committee does exist. And they have,
But what happens
and they
if
have
it's
meetings every
denied?
month.
But
What happens if it's denied?
that's outside our purview.
Is it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's,
It doesn't, yeah.
Yeah.
it's no different than
You can delete the condition, but they still need to meet it before they can build.
Well, then don't delete
That's
the
okay.
condition. So, would you say just the
Tom DiPietro.
Oh, that's who, oh,
Tom, let
Tom.
me see, you.
Here, I stopped sharing.
Yeah, maybe Tom knows about it,
Let me
yes.
see.
Yes,
Oh.
the executive director of HCDPA is Sarah Black.
Sarah, right, yeah. On that board. So the committee does exist. And they have
Committee
meetings
does.
every month, So I'm not aware if they know what they.
So is the board comfortable that the permit condition number 5 would take care of that as well as all of our other permits? Because essentially it's the same as like our DEC permit or the rest of the permits we have. We have to get all our permits, keep them updated before we do the project.
So condition 5 that he's talking about
Oh, well,
is this one, applicant shall comply with all permit conditions for the project that have been imposed. So it's not a permit condition unless it's imposed.
so in the,
we could say
Can
all
I-
laws.
That are
Item.
imposed.
can item 5 say shall comply with all,
All
Permit.
applicable.
All applicable laws and regulations, including all permits issued pursuant thereto.
shall obtain and comply,
All-
obtain, keep current and comply with all applicable.
Obtain, maintain.
Yeah.
and comply.
Are we going on page 20 now?
Maybe mine.
The applicant shall,
Obtain, maintain.
10 times. How about retain, we're gonna have to keep it.
And that way, the confusing condition above that has it mentioned as a condition precedent can be eliminated. And the be it further resolved part with the blanks, and just leave it at payment of all fees and escrow. And we'll contact Sarah Black in the morning.
is this, Ryan, does this read all right to you?
Obtain, maintain. Comply with all applicable, and that's including conditions. Yeah. I think it gets the point across.
Okay,
And then we wanna go back up.
yeah, let's go back up. So the question is, whether the planning board wants to require they get this floodplain permit before you sign the site plan or not. And I can't think of any here.
You said it's required, Ryan?
The city code, chapter 148 requires it for any work within a special flood hazard area. So any area, any projects within the city of Hudson, within a floodplain require floodplain development permit. I can't speak to the process or if any of them.
And the reason it's a condition of the site plan is because if you have to modify your plan somehow to comply with some permit condition, then you have to do that before she signs for the children's signs plan.
So it's something you're gonna go after now anyway, right?
We just wanna clarify, are we in a floodway or a flood?
You are in a floodplain. The dock, I believe, is partially within a floodway, but the Hall Road is within a floodplain. Let me just pull up, flood damage prevention.
Would it be better if I wrote or, written documentation that no permit is needed?
No, I think paragraph 5 that we just amended covers it. And if you build that in there, we don't have a permit, so it hasn't been issued forthwith. If it's contingent upon something we don't have and don't know
Well, it's,
anything.
the permit condition 5
Is inclusive of this.
includes this, so,
Right.
yeah, I
But they
think
just said
way.
they don't have,
Well, no, but in order, so as part of the permit condition, they need to maintain, they need to, obtain.
So
So-
we're required to go out and get it.
yeah.
So we couldn't just tell.
So
you
the
to
work
get it.
within the city of Hudson right away on Front Street will need some level of permit coverage from the city DPW.
Right.
And that will, a lot of times DPW won't issue the permit until 30, 60 days before you're gonna commence construction. So oftentimes a site plan approval will have that as a condition of the approval.
What do you think? Anybody? I'll let you, Victoria, what is your professional opinion?
I mean, the issue here is that it's something that the city's not, it doesn't sound like the city has a real process for it. And if this was the ordinary course of business, this should be a condition of site plan approval, because any changes required to implement any conditions of the permit would have to show up in the site plan.
So number 5 wouldn't cover that,
Number 5 does cover it.
okay.
Paul Calarusa has done some research on this originally, I think back 7 years ago or whenever it may have come up, and there's been no projects at the waterfront that have required this permit. And I think that's why nobody's sure of it.
All the hotels down there, all the redevelopment down in the flood, plain. I don't think there's a process for it. So I'd appreciate, I think maybe if we strike it, we'll check with these people, and then paragraph 5 covers it.
And it's up to the board. I mean, I added language here, written documentation that no permit is needed if it's the city's not issuing any, but.
So do we wanna add, keep this in or just, paragraph 5 of all? What do you say, Jack?
Right, I mean, there's other permits in addition to this one that they need to obtain.
Well, if they will remove and they move
How
forward
about
without the permit, then they would be in violation of this agreement.
Correct.
As well as.
So you say leave it in?
And chapter 148.
Yeah,
So what do you say, leave it in there, or take it out?
I'm all right with removing it because it's redundant. it is
It's in number
inclusive.
5. Okay, how about you, Ben?
Do you feel like it's redundant?
So it's redundant, it's just a matter of where things happen. So the way it's laid out is here, it would be required to occur before the site plan can be signed, before Teresa can sign
Okay,
it.
so I can, yeah,
But, you know, that could be some time. Here, they could pay their fees, get their site plan signed, but then, you know, they still need to meet the permit. So it's a matter of where your leverage is and where you want to make sure that this gets done. Because they could get the site plan signed and then, you know, proceed with the other things.
so number 5 would be,
So
so.
number 5, right, putting
would
it
cover
there
it.
covers it.
But would it just be with number 5, I can sign it without them getting it, but if you put it in that part, I can't sign it until they get that permit.
Mhm.
Right.
Okay, so, we got John, we got, Randall, what do you say, Ben? Leave it in or let number 5 cover everything?
Sorry, I was looking more into the permit and what it actually entails.
All right, we'll give them a chance to do that. Valerie, you wanna add
I
something?
say leave it.
Okay, how about you, Bettina?
I would say remove it.
Okay, so we've got, 2 removes, and me? I don't wanna influence, I'm way to Ben.
I usually say leave it, but kind of looking at the permit and based on this, I just feel like we've covered a lot of the flood risk in some other of the reporting and surveys that Ryan has done. So I think we're covered enough where even if they pay their fees now and like can proceed, it's okay.
And I,
That's where I land, you can omit it.
I mean, you said it better than me. I kind of think that, that's kind of, they can't go any further without the proper permits. So they just can't, right? Am I right?
Correct.
So to put that in there and me don't sign it because of it, I just think that, I could sign it, but there's no way they can go if they don't have the proper permits, because someone else is watching this operation once we sign off.
But you couldn't sign it if they didn't.
If I put that in there,
You put it in, you couldn't sign it.
until they got it, and then if we find out the city doesn't issue it, and then they wanna start, this is
Right.
gonna go,
Yeah, I think it adds another layer
yeah,
to this that doesn't necessarily need to be, and again, if they proceed, we can always check.
yeah. Well, they wouldn't be able
Retroactively
to.
to see if they got it and when they
Would
got
you be
it,
able
and
to?
then.
You wouldn't be able to.
Well, we can ask Craig, hey, I mean, I'm sure we could.
Yeah.
Yeah, we would know what date that they got it, when it was assigned, and then if it
But to
wasn't
delay
proper,
the
we could
signing
deal with
because
that.
it's not there. And then the city may start to, they haven't been doing it, so they're gonna start. Now it's gonna just make it possible. So I said, let's sign it and let number 5 cover that condition of all the permits. So how many we have we had 2 for leaving it.
3, 2 to leave it and 3 to take it
And
out.
3 to take it out. Oh, no, somebody's missing.
Yep, Randall, no. Randall.
I said we should take it out, I think Bettina said we should take it out, you, Val.
Leave it, but if you said take it out. then-
Yeah, so it was you and John that said leave it, and the rest of us said take, so it's 2 and 4.
Yeah.
Alright, so. Majority rules here.
Okay,
So Valerie, it would read, sign the site plan upon payment of all fees and escrow, period.
So far,
Yep.
what it says,
Is there anything, do we put it in that part where if they just ignore
What
everything
did
we
you say,
said,
Kevin? What did you say?
fine?
we
Paying it as,
can't.
what did you say?
I just thought it could be shortened because there's only one condition, but it's fine.
Okay, so we can't find them. I'm sorry, we'll just, okay.
Okay.
Let's keep going.
So then, the planning board hereby grants the applicant a conditional use permit for the project, subject to the following ongoing conditions of approval. So these are conditions that they have to satisfy all the time. So hauling shall be limited to between the hours of 7 AM to 6 PM, Monday through Thursday, 7 to 5 on Friday.
Didn't we use another word that was acts of God, what is called force?
Force majeure.
That's under 2I.
Okay.
Let's make capital G.
You heard that?
So,
God is with a capital G.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you very much.
in the first condition,
Yeah, you're still arguing about included but not limited, I heard.
that's not what I was talking.
Oh, I was gonna say, hold on, I hear John. So, board, are these, you're happy with these 6 holidays?
Yeah,
Okay,
I mean, I would like to add 20, but I don't think I can.
So now this is limiting the holidays that Colarusso can haul on. Is that correct?
hauling
No,
between,
No, that's the days you don't haul.
you don't haul.
Yeah.
Those are the major holidays.
Right.
Yeah, those are your days you told us.
All right, that's good. That major holiday.
Yeah,
Okay.
and we put them in because we, what's a holiday to me? It's not a holiday to you, and I'm sure that's the rest of the world.
Right. So there's one sentence that we had proposed in here to make sure that this time limitation is not construed as potentially affecting the dock or mining operations, and that
Right,
was.
I didn't put it in because the quarry is not even in the city of Hudson. And I
Right.
thought it was confusing.
Okay,
I mean, it says between the quarry and the dock. You wanted to say hauling on the haul road, use of the haul road shall be limited to? Would that be,
What do you mean by that?
they want to make sure that we're not somehow
Yeah,
limiting
that-
their internal, when they drive on their road to get from one point in their quarry to another point in their quarry.
what I was trying to say is the dock operation itself, like, let's say there's no trucks running at all, and people are down at the dock working, these limitations are not on that. That's what I was saying, is that this time limitation doesn't affect what happens in the quarry and what happens inside of the dock.
So does that work? stay within the city of Massachusetts.
This is the Hall Road we're talking about, not the dock operation.
Right.
In other words.
Dock operation is
You can
still
go
seven
on,
to seven.
right,
seven.
yeah, in other words, you can do whatever you have to do, because we haven't discussed that yet.
Right, it
But
has
you
been,
just, yeah, you're just not gonna be having trucks going and coming back, right?
Yes.
Anybody have any questions? Randall?
No, we're good.
okay. Applicants shall use the Hall Road for trucks traveling between the quarry and the dock, except when Hall Road is impassable due to conditions outside of applicant's control, such as acts of God, weather events, or governmental intervention.
And that would be the governmental intervention, explain that again.
So that would be what we had talked about is construction. So if there's DOT construction on 9 or 9G, or an emergency situation where emergency services has limited, basically said you can't cross 9 or 9G, police chase, something else is going on. So governmental intervention largely being emergency services or DOT, but if something else, should prevent them from using the Hall Road.
Who's responsible for like a flashing yellow or a sign or something like that at the crossings? If that should be.
It would be in DOT jurisdiction if it's in there right away.
Didn't we say we're gonna, did we talk about last month, a limitation, like if there's a problem on the road, it shouldn't be for 3 weeks.
No, it was a time thing. It was a time thing, like, each.
But I think that was a discussion, and then what we, I think what we came up with is if it's a tree's down, they're gonna push it out of the way to continue down the Hall Road. If the causeway is washed out and it requires, and there's, emergency work elsewhere, that may, may extend longer, but if they're short events, I think another concern that a board member might have brought up is what if a truck breaks down?
Yeah.
It is,
Brought that up, and we
since
said
it's,
go around.
yeah, since it's two lane, you'd be able to go around.
Yeah.
So these are, frankly, these are situations where might not have,
Okay.
might not ever occur, but then again, that's why it's in that kind of catch-all clause, because it could happen 2 months from now.
Okay, so then this is,
We did mention what they're gonna let the code enforcement or somewhere.
yep, that's Romanet 3, which. Okay, so
Put it on the
the
website.
mining exemption is 2. And now it says, this exception shall be limited to 40 times per year unless the applicant's New York State DEC mining permit is amended in such a way that more frequent exceptions are required, in which case, upon written request from the applicant, the planning board shall reconsider the number of exceptions allowed, taking into consideration the impact on the residents of the city and the ability of the applicant to conduct its business.
This is where we request a time limit from the board. Say 60 days.
60 is not even 2 months sometimes. With like a holiday or something, if you're open to this, I would say 90 days, because that gives you 2
That's
meetings.
usually, yeah, 90.
So we have.
Can I offer
So we don't need a public hearing for all.
Right. Yeah. Can I offer some other language though, Victoria and board, because I think that's referencing language that goes beyond the code. I think if you keep it neutral, it might be safer, because taking into consideration impact to residents and ability of the applicant to conduct its business is kind of soft. We'll get there. If I could propose this.
I'm just gonna write it so I can.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would put it after the word required the first time,
Mhm.
is amended in such a way that more frequent exceptions are required, period. And then I'd say, in this case, applicant shall apply for an amendment to this conditional use permit which shall be processed promptly and decided within no more than 90 days.
So,
And then we'll just follow the code and you'll look at the new DEC permit and
so
we'll talk about it.
I see what you're doing, but if we're fashioning it as an amendment to the conditional use permit, which I suppose it is, then, you know, there's a public hearing required and it is a more formal process at that point.
And it won't,
As
and,
opposed to amending a condition of the resolution.
and doesn't that give, bring them back maybe for not just the extension on, the blasting, but something else?
Well, I mean, it would be limited, their amendment would be limited, but.
I don't understand. You're saying you can change it, you can amend a resolution without amending a resolution. You don't have to go through seeker, you don't have to even think about seeker, you just amend the resolution. And you don't look at the code or anything? I don't understand that.
A portion.
We're just talking about the exception.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think saying you have to apply for amendment to the conditional use permit is more protective to the city, but we can't put a 90-day restriction on that because it has to go through the process for a conditional use permit at that point.
Well,
We're trying to come up with an
what could you do
alternate-
what could you do in
alternate
90 days?
process.
I understand.
A reasonable time,
Yeah.
and that would, and that.
We're not gonna hold
whatever's
it
happening.
up, just like you say.
We shall be processed promptly and just leave it at that.
Yeah. And even if this is not the board that you, if you have to come back, and this is not the board to come back to promptly, it's good. Right?
There you go.
Okay, now this is off this topic, but it is important to the road. Can we request that emergency services personnel be given access, to your road?
Yes.
I mean, I think you would do it anyway, but I think for public safety, that would be a great thing to put in. An ambulance can get from downtown to uptown much quicker on your road than if they had to go. to
Oh, that's,
Hudson.
you're talking about volunteer, okay. I thought-
Yeah, anything, whether it be fire, ambulance, or police.
So that could probably just be under the, what is it, whichever condition that'll, the owner shall allow use of the Hall Road to customers and emergency services.
Are you okay with that?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, emergency services is, I think you can do that anyway. Yeah.
I think they would, but it's
Yeah.
just nice to.
Okay, but if they, okay, take for instance, you have a condition where ambulance is coming on your road, could it hold up your trucks? Cause if they
okay.
come on your road, yeah, but,
We'll-
okay,
We'll be able to.
but you can't go on the street because of ambulance is.
That's
on your
okay.
road.
Okay.
Okay, I wanna make sure you understand that.
We're good with that.
If you let the ambulance come,
I think
you cannot go on the street.
I think they can do like fire trucks, like they'll go across private property.
Right.
Yeah.
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 Sure.
Okay. Can't use the streets.
I mean, does it make, I don't know. It doesn't make
Shall.
sense in the sentence, because the emergency service vehicle is not going to the quarry necessarily.
Yeah, this should just be a standalone, the applicant should allow use of emergency service vehicles on the whole road, as a separate thing.
And we don't have to mention anything about public vehicles and people, because and bike routes.
No.
You need the word allowance there.
Yeah, it looks like it's on
Oh, sure, thank you.
Yeah, we're getting tired.
Allow emergency
Yes.
services.
You know.
It should say, I mean.
May I see the language we just came up with, please, about the amendment? How that read above?
Yeah, I'm just trying to go back to my
Yeah.
Zoom.
Right? You guys okay with that?
Okay, let's keep going.
So
Yeah,
my only question was, and I think we jumped past it, so sorry for going in reverse, but. 4, so above.
wait, we're not 4 yet, we're only at 3 still.
Okay, we're on Roman numeral 3?
Romanet 3.
Okay, then never mind.
Okay, so then each time one of the exceptions is used, so 1 or 2, the applicant shall post notice on its website of the exception, notify the code enforcement officer of the city of Hudson in writing prior to such use of city streets. I mean, I could say via email, that's probably more realistic. Or by phone.
We used to talk by phone, but email's a good idea.
Something in writing,
Yes.
because, you know, we have to keep this.
For him as well.
But we have to keep it.
Yeah, the public has to understand, and we have to keep records.
I need to write there for record.
No more, backdoor deals.
Correct. Any use of city streets pursuant to the above exception shall avoid the use of city streets and use the Hall Road to the maximum extent practicable, and when the Hall Road is not available, you know, that should just be a new sentence. When the Hall Road is not available, not enough.
Victoria, just,
Yeah, yeah,
would it
sorry.
be easier, you know, the sentence that introduced all of the exceptions?
Uh-huh.
I think it says, Calaruso shall use, maybe if you put in there, the applicant shall use the Hall Road for trucks traveling to the quarry and the dock to the maximum extent practical, except, and then put these.
Yeah, I like that.
Well, it's fine, except that we're trying to introduce the route here.
So then we can add the route. When Calaruso uses city streets, it shall limit its use to.
No, I think I see what you're saying, but the concept here is that even when you're under an exception,
Yeah.
you need to be avoiding the city streets to the maximum extent practical. So even if there's an exception, it doesn't mean you go all the way down through the city normally. If you can get to the Hall Road, you don't get to the Hall Road.
And then those use any portion of.
But I do like the idea of putting that up front and as an overarching concept to.
Well, because I don't
to all
wanna,
that's below.
if we put it here.
Yeah, I would
at
say
the
one or
top,
the other.
To the maximum extent practicable, then the exceptions,
Yeah, because
I'd rather
2
have-
at the top there says, unless there's an exception, you don't use city
Right.
streets. So to say to that maximum
it
extent
weakens the
practical,
exceptions.
no, that's.
Yeah, that wasn't my.
No exception.
All right,
Under 2, and then I, you know, et cetera,
okay.
are
Okay.
Still going. Still.
Can you mute yourself, please?
You mute.
Turn off your microphone.
I think they're, okay.
Okay, the applicant, or any use of city
The Hall
streets.
Road is, okay, so what this says basically is that when you can't use the Hall Road, they would like you to use the preferred alternate route, which was put up on the screen earlier. Unless, of course, that also has an issue.
Right.
Which we will attach, so.
Yeah, so that will be attached to this resolution, so there's a record of it. The-
And that record will be the line that you drew that shows us going through the route we currently use.
Yes,
correct.
Okay.
but coming back the same way, not,
Right.
you know, avoid the, front street from front to curb.
Okay. Applicant shall pave at its own expense all areas of the Hall Road west of Route 23 D9G. The intersections along the Hall Road as required by the permit from the DOT and the currently unpaved portions of Front Street between the Hall Road and the dock.
What's that little, we're not there yet. I'm sorry.
Okay. So then 4, this was being wordsmith, that's why there's a dash there.
Okay.
The applicant shall not exceed 284 daily trips to and from the dock Worry. But so we wanted this to include the applicant's vendors, but not include the applicant's customers. We
Right.
want the customers.
Including applicants, independent truckers.
Sure.
That is the trust correct.
Is that okay? Is that okay, JR? And Bob?
No, it should be included applicants, vehicles, and independent truckers.
Right.
284 going to 284 going out. Right. That means.
Hold on. Sorry, Teresa, I'll be right there. Okay, sorry, Teresa, what were you asking?
Is there
I
any
guess it
way,
should say trucks.
Yeah,
is there any way that to inform, to exceed 284 trips to and from, because anyway, 284 going, 284 going back.
What's considered a trip? Is that what you're saying? What is considered a trip? Is that one way?
Well, I think it might be good to say 142 loads or 284 daily trips.
284 round.
One way, yeah,
One
one
way.
way, because that could be Mr.
No,
That's way back.
No, 284 is it's 142 down and back, which equals 284 total trips.
Or.
Well, maybe that-
oh, just do total trips and then
Maybe,
just
yeah.
one way.
Well, and that's,
Yeah.
yeah, I would say 142 loads, either slash or in parentheses, because we're not saying or, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
284 trips.
Yeah.
A trip generation is one direction, so.
Right.
What is the board saying?
So it's basically either 142 round trips or 284.
In other words, that's the question, I'll make sure it doesn't be misconstrued as 284 going, 284 coming back.
Right.
Yeah, but if you have 142 round trips,
Mhm.
284 is kind of stuff.
Yeah, it is.
Right. Okay, so we can, yeah.
You tell me how you want this worded.
I mean, I think it's also with this, it's also clear in the seeker record and the traffic impact analyses that it's 142,
Yeah.
you know, loads equaling 284 trips.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say trips, not just round.
Yeah, I would,
Well,
Yeah.
so,
yeah, it's over here.
like, if I could just add something just for everyone to consider. The applicant shall not exceed, I would prefer it saying 284 one-way trips. The reason for that is if a truck goes down, but it breaks down, it's not gonna come back, then that's, you know what I mean? Like a truck isn't always, I mean, yes, it'd probably go both ways, but one-way trips is a better way of measuring it than round trips.
And that is.
That's your language, but we're
But
talking
that-
about labor,
But may I,
because that.
when we
that's
talk of-
confusing.
when we talk about traffic impacts, it's all based on trip generation.
Yeah.
It's not based on, because typically nobody's going round trip anywhere, so it's always trip generation. So what's been presented in the record from the traffic analysis and analyzed under seeker is 284 trips.
Okay.
Yeah, let's use the facility language. Yeah.
And that's a very, you know, standard, I think to add one way, since we are dealing with this situation, doesn't hurt.
284 trips.
No, I think we wanted the one way because that's what caused the confusion, or that's what caused the question, right?
Right.
So do you wanna say, want me to put one way in parentheses?
So how they presented in the traffic analysis is 284 trips, and then in parentheses, in this case, it would be 142 trips enter, 142
I'd
trips
rather it be
exit.
like.
That's how I like it worded then.
That makes more sense. That's clear
It's
to the
clear, it's
layman,
clear.
anybody that's looking at it can understand it.
Can you
This-
read it?
So 284 trips, and then in parentheses, 142 trips enter, 142 trips exit.
Okay, well,
That's
good.
Okay. There we go. Thank you.
So it should be including applicants, trucks.
Oh, not vehicles.
Yeah, trucks, and then and associated independent trucks.
Ooh,
What did I do?
yeah, we're getting tired. I can see this. I know what happens. when I get tired.
Yeah, and associated independent trucks.
Associated?
To include, should we say to include or just? And,
Including
applicants,
trucks and associated.
okay, to include, okay.
Here?
Yeah. You know, you guys could just, you know.
So what do you mean not including customers?
So customers being, I'm driving up to the quarry and I'm using from 9 to Newman Road to get a load of.
No, not
gravel.
local, you say not local customers.
Yeah,
But if they have a customer that's not their truck or another truck, but he just wants to exit and go out, they should also.
well, yes, but that's not the 284 trips.
I understand.
Yeah.
Understood.
For instance, like if they're doing the bridge over down there.
Right.
Yeah, if it's not related, and I don't know if this language, if it's not related, the 284 is specifically from the quarry to the dock. If it's somebody else that's using it for an intermittent stretch, that's not going to the dock to deliver material, it's not part of that 284 trips.
What's the limit of this?
Yeah, suggest a change to that last sentence. It's so confusing.
Any increase in vehicle trips, is that? the-
I would say, yes, I would say instead of any expansion in vehicle trips, it would stick to the 284 concept, so I'd say, I would suggest any exceedance in the 284 maximum daily vehicle trips shall require.
Increase sounds.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's just,
Exceedance, any exceedance, in other words, we only have to come back if we exceed that peak day.
well, it's not
It's a
sure,
peak day.
any increase in 284 and any exceedance is the same, but that's fine, any exceedance in 284 trips. What was the rest of it?
Increase is not a good, it's not a good.
Any exceed.
That's all. So instead of expansion in vehicle trips, I would say exceedance and.
Right,
Any rights of 284.
Do you weigh your trucks as they leave?
Yes, that's good, thank you.
Okay, cause there's gotta be somewhere, Doc, like how would we know, how would the public know when you exceeded 284 on the whole road?
It's up to us to police it.
Yeah.
But you do keep records of you would know how many ways.
Yes.
that you have.
Oh, yeah.
So they should be able to be made available upon request, then we can check,
Yeah, right.
so maybe verification,
that, I mean,
By who though?
we're gonna have to have,
I think
so,
we're-
the way it works is that.
But the code enforcement officer has that ability already.
The code enforcement officer
Oh, yeah.
would be the one to.
Yeah, he will.
if there's
follow
a
this
complaint, then the code enforcement officer would investigate
Correct.
and obtain any information that they're legally within.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, if you suppose we could ask them to submit documentation annually of the total number of vehicle
Put
trips,
it on 72.
right? We're not gonna see this.
No, I don't think
Do
we
you
should put
currently
any
send
someone out code
any
enforcement.
documentation regarding your trip generation?
That's correct.
The code enforcement officer,
Yeah, that's-
cause you wouldn't have had to prior to this.
No, we would never have to.
Okay.
Can that say any exceedance of 284 daily vehicle trips?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what you should say.
that's the word.
Okay.
So just so I understand, there's no, other than what you all are recording, that's the only way we'll know how many trips you all did that day.
Unless
you're counting.
right, unless the city decided, the city decided to not.
The city could, I mean, on South Front Street, where the city street ends, the city could install a traffic count.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
If they
so I mean, there's nothing,
We're probably doing it now, big traffic study.
Mhm.
We can, help the city do that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty nice. At whose expense? Calusa?
I mean, it's enforcement of a permit.
Yeah,
It
but
falls
why?
under code enforcement.
But if the city, remember, if the city has to pay for it, that's coming from the taxpayers' dollar. And, you know, the taxpayers are homeowners.
Well, I think if there's an issue, if there's an appearance that the 284 is being exceeded,
Then.
I'm sure the city will know, and then it would be part of that investigation by code enforcement to see if it is being, violated.
Do we have to put that in that periodically, open to inspection or whatever?
I think that's a Craig thing.
So, right, it's Craig that handles the enforcement.
So, yeah.
There's really nothing to it.
It's not our jurisdiction.
Yeah.
But good. That's just say if I think of something, it's not our
But, you know,
jurisdiction, say
you may
not.
want to recommend that the city install a traffic counter.
We can recommend that. Happy. Maybe they'll install one to police themselves. That's a good way. Install a
Falls
counter.
out.
Right, and then you police yourselves, you got proof here.
Alright, applicant shall comply with all applicable laws. and
Yeah, I've been here a
regulations.
long time, so I can.
Maintain,
think of a lot
maintain,
of things.
comply with all applicable permits. We've already, applicant shall allow emergency service vehicles to use the haul road, applicant shall allow its customers to use the haul road for access to the quarry. Signs shall be posted, pamphlets shall be made available at the quarry detailing the haul road for customers. And then be it further resolved, applicant shall complete construction of the haul road within 18 months of the date of this resolution or approval of the site plan set shall expire unless the planning board has issued an extension upon written request of the planning board, which extension shall not be unreasonably withheld.
Okay, whole road within 18 months of the date of this resolution. Or approval of the site plan.
Yeah, this should be
section. What
reworded.
does that,
It
yeah.
means,
Whichever is later.
that,
what is it?
that, okay, here we go, that the site plan set shall expire if the applicant has not completed construction of all roads with any months of the resolution.
I would say approval of the site plan
Expires, yeah.
within 18 months of the approval of the site plan.
No, it's this resolution, because otherwise we're gonna argue whether your site plan is approved when it's signed or when something else happens.
Well, we can't construct it until the site plan is signed.
Okay, so this is running from 18 months from the resolution.
Well, when are you gonna sign the site plan?
When are you gonna
What if
submit
you wait
it?
18 months? You already have it.
Then,
Well,
No,
so.
It has to
no,
commence some site plan, that's not up for.
The resolution says that the site plan shall be signed once all escrow is paid. It's
Right.
defined in the resolution, is it not?
That's why,
Right.
that's why all you have to do is say,
Right, putting a limit on it from completion already is overstepping, it should be commencement, but we'll agree to the construction within 18 months, but it has to go from site plan approval, because then our clock is ticking and you guys can sit on the site plan.
What do you think?
I mean, I understand
it's
you're rolling your
fine.
eyes, but this has been before this board for 7 years,
Okay,
so how can
if
you
you
not want to?
Okay.
This board, City of Hudson Planning Board.
Not
What do you guys say?
Yeah, 7 months.
It's getting constructed, I think it's fine.
Yeah, how about you?
there you go.
Bettina?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question. I was busy listening and focusing on this
Do
conversation.
we wanna
over
leave,
here.
do we wanna add,
that's where you learn the most.
I want a date certain, so it's clear. I don't wanna say site plan approval, because that could mean the resolution, it could mean signature. So I've put in date that the chairperson has signed the site plan set. So it's a date certain, she's gonna date it when she signs it.
Right, and it's 18 months from that date, from that site.
Okay.
And you're right, you gotta get a site plan, and then sometimes you're right, cause I may be away.
No, you have the site plan set.
Well,
All we have to do is pay the
But I
escrow,
think-
put the money in escro tomorrow, and
so
we'd ask that it be
Is
signed.
this the one from 2000 what?
you're gonna have to submit your
1847,
copies.
I don't remember.
The files are.
Yes, yes,
right
please.
now.
We have the site plan,
So,
we have the
one?
site plan drawings, however, a paper copy needs to be submitted for signature.
Yes, that's true.
So that's all that
And you
they're
may
asking,
have
that's all
submitted
they're
one,
asking.
but it didn't go to
The
me.
one from November 2016 is, got copy stains on it.
You have to understand, this board has changed people, and we didn't have files.
Okay.
and-
Got it.
So what, how we normally do this, John, now is that Teresa and I meet half hour before the planning board meetings. Make an appointment with Teresa, you bring the plans, and then she'll sign it, because there's no planning board office, there's no planning board Dropbox. So this is the workaround, for the time.
Come before the next meeting.
Yeah.
When's the next meeting?
The
Second
second
Tuesday,
Tuesday.
yeah.
Second Tuesday of
Or you
January.
can make an appointment with her beforehand, but, you know, given the holidays, you can work with Teresa outside of this meeting, but you also need confirmation that all your escrow has been paid.
That means you're gonna have to get them a check, because right now your escrows, as the treasurer said, you don't have enough money to even pay November's bill.
So, I don't know. We'll talk for a minute. Can I just take, I think you.
Go ahead.
Look at the 2 minutes, like, I didn't go during the.
Go ahead.
Are we gonna take a break?
Yes.
Yeah, we're
please.
taking a
I'm sorry, but.
3-minute break.
And we're back. Okay, the applicant wants to extend it to, because of the winter coming, so are you all in agreement with 24 months?
Yes.
Yeah, so we're in agreement with 24 months. Something that was, actually signed your physical application. So when you submit the application, it's gonna tell them the process? It's gonna go to Ryan to make sure it's compared, right?
For signature, yes, submit the site plan set. Ryan will review it to make sure there's no changes from the plan that the board
Because he
approved.
has a digital. And then I was, and you're ready to go.
So that is, I mean, that's the whole resolution. There's a few typos I caught and I'll clean it up one more time, but does anyone have any other comments on it before?
And the applicant's gonna bring a new copy, a new site plan?
Yes, he's gonna bring, I guess, the old one, but a physical copy of it.
Yes.
Bring a few.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
the
you
one
have to
date,
bring 3, right?
well, it's the one dated November 2016, but it's just paper copies of it.
And you have to bring 3. One has to go to to Craig. And the other one is, the clerks, and the other one stays with the planning board.
How are we gonna memorialize the alternate route that we determined that we were gonna do today?
I
Like
can,
screenshot.
I can,
Shot it.
I can do that, or I can, prepare something that's a little less scraggly than this.
We can also prepare one.
It's going to be attached to the resolution. Do you just want to show it here? I'll stop sharing again.
Yeah,
Show
sure.
everyone again, so everyone's not,
Okay,
make sure.
am I still on?
before-
No, I'm still on. All right, so it is the yellow route, and I'm gonna just delete everything else.
Yes.
And I'm gonna put it in red, and so that is the alternate route.
Oh, let me just kind of, what? Yeah, oh,
Going and coming. Get rid of the other, see the other reds coming out of the little.
Yeah,
thin red?
I can't, that's
So
part of
that's why I
the,
said, so we created it, so we can just do it again and just have the red alternate route and
Yeah.
get rid of the rest.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll appreciate
so
that.
submit that with the site plan.
Yes.
The sets of the site. plan.
But,
Can you
well,
go
yeah,
back
can
to
you
the whole
screenshot
road?
this, because I'll attach this to the red.
Yes.
Can you go back to the whole road only?
I just deleted the other.
That's just like this, I'll do.
Okay, that what you want?
And then delete that other one.
Wait, delete what?
Delete so I just see the whole road.
Okay,
All right, that's fine.
and this is all gonna be on YouTube too, so.
Yeah, that's good. So people, that's fine.
Okay. I'll save this and distribute this as well. Okay.
All right.
Okay, so is it time?
Yeah. It's up to the board.
Okay, so we had extensive discussion, time, and is there any questions that the board has before we add to a motion?
The only, I'm still kind of bug on the route. Because, if skirting the park, that's different. But you also have trucks traveling down Columbia Street with the current plan. And you have emissions from the trucks and the stop at the stop sign, things like that. You just see that it's, to my mind, it's more friendly to the environment and to the city of Hudson to have them just skirt down the street frontage before you use it. I mean, it's just my opinion.
Okay,
So,
is that what we
everybody's
noted?
Consideration. And it's less, it'd be less gas for these guys, because they're not driving down Columbia Street and stopping at traffic lights and doing that kind of stuff. So,
But it's not a real
But the-
difficult turn off of Warren Street, Upper Warren Street, to
Yeah.
make that right? It's
Yeah,
gotta be.
we have determined that the board and the majority has agreed that.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
but going down
Yeah.
Columbia Street.
But he just
Yeah,
wanted
it's
to
because
make
that's a
that
straight road
noted.
and it's the truck route. If you're going up, and I mean, you're wrong, but if you're going up, you're on Warren
Route
Street.
9 is a truck route too, which is 7th Street Park, Warren Street and Worth Avenue.
It's just,
So-
he's just making it known. We've already
Yeah.
made that decision.
And I just think it would be more efficient and safer in a couple of ways without the emissions. That's all. I just had to get that 2 cents.
And we wanna make sure it's not. All right, so, any more questions, any more Okay. Karen. May I get a motion to introduce the resolution?
You may.
Motion by John Coe.
And second,
I'll second
all in favor?
it.
Any opposed? Okay. Now, can I get a motion to, we all read it, we all went through it?
I think that it's opposite.
That's it.
I thought you said introduce. Yeah, introduce and adopt is the same.
Yes.
Oh, wait.
No, introduced it, okay, back up. Normally it's motion, second, vote.
Oh, I thought you said introduce it, meaning
Right, introduce the resolution, that was the motion.
to approve it.
Yeah, because it's a resolution to grant site plan.
Okay, so,
Okay,
all right, let's do this all, because I thought introduce mean, you know,
if
you
you did, right.
reading it as a,
So,
so now.
okay, so we have a motion by John Cody to adopt the resolution, a second by Randall Martin.
Oh, so adopt means to, approve it.
No, because the resolution is resolution to grant site
Wait a
plan
minute.
and conditional use permit approval.
I know what you're saying, yeah, I didn't think we were voting now, that when the word introduced did not mean to me vote. But
Okay,
it does mean vote, so we'll do it all over. This is when we vote, okay? So, can I get a motion to,
Then the motion stands, it's like, oh,
You have a motion and a second. Is there
oh,
any discussion, any further discussion
discussion, right.
on the resolution?
what about all in favor?
After final call for discussion.
Right.
Okay, it's late.
it's getting late.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. So this is what happens. What?
Any other discussion on the resolution?
Any other discussion on the resolution?
No, just my 2 cents. I understand that this will help get, traffic off the streets. However, my concern is years to come, how that will affect what is going on as a mixed-use waterfront. So that's all I have to say. I am concerned about the future and not what's going on right now. That's all.
Then? Tina?
Are you calling for a vote?
No, just a discussion.
No,
I'm
waiting for the vote.
John, you had yours. Okay. Randall.
Oh, good.
Okay, so
Want to say it again, all in favor?
it's all in favor, we're gonna call the votes.
Roll call vote, right?
Yeah, roll call vote, yes.
Okay.
Bettina?
In favor? No,
Valerie?
not in favor.
That's a nay for Valerie.
In favor.
Ben?
Yes.
John? In favor? Randall?
In favor.
Teresa? In favor?
Okay, motion carries.
Motion carries.
I have one. I have one.
5-1.
You want a motion to close the meeting?
Yes.
You have other,
Do we have?
Oh, wait a minute, we have other business. Oh, yeah, wait a minute, we need to talk about the escrow. Because,
You'll have a check tomorrow morning.
We need to take to
We
the
need a
city.
formal motion for the, in order for the clerk to accept it, she wants a formal motion.
yeah.
We did that.
we need to-
you did,
We did that?
you did that
Oh,
already.
yeah, we did that already.
Okay.
A resolution.
That's right.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
now, well, so we're done. Do you have something else?
No, we have something else on our agenda.
Oh, my God.
Really? Yeah, we do.
So you're clear on what needs to be submitted. I will distribute that markup that I shared, and the paper copies of the site plan will be submitted for signature, and an attachment for the resolution.
Okay.
All right?
Okay, gentlemen, have a great evening, holiday. Have a good night.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you. You can't show to.
Okay, now we're gonna go to other business. We don't have minutes to approve, so we're not approving planning board minutes. So we don't have minutes to approve. I mean, Ben was nice enough to give me a lot of stuff, but that's just, that's just so I can know what I've said. Because a lot of times, I need to do my agenda and I don't know that. Okay, we have bills. I submitted the bills to all of you guys. Could I get a motion to approve the bill? Okay, now,
Oh, so moved.
okay,
I'll second.
okay. And then we have the proposed changes to the planning board procedures. Bettina, you were gonna work on the, escrow on the application.
You give me.
I got sick at point in time when we were gonna do it, and just never thought.
Would you be able to do it in January?
I'm not gonna be on.
He's not gonna be on the board yet.
You didn't get the question. Valerie, would you work on that with us?
Work on it.
The,
Looking at different municipalities and,
for planning board.
for planning boards, we're going to be using out as well.
Yeah, okay, good.
Oh, yeah.
And then we are working, Ben, Randall and myself, we have, added Michael, Michael, a great job, we, trying to get this all.
Pictures.
Figured out.
And I just, when I do these, they send me pictures.
We're trying to get everything automated, computerized, where the applications are on the computer and people can pay on the computer, they can put their escrow amounts on it. So we are entertaining, some of the tech groups for that, and that's going very well, okay? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I vote on that?
It's all second that.
First and last. Okay.
Teresa.
I wanna thank everybody, good night.
Good night.
Boom.